from Unit Ventures that we'll get into in a minute. Now, as you know, we usually do our live streams on Monday, which is Speak Up Monday. Now, we have 3 a week. So Speak Up Monday is on Monday, and we have Speak Up on Clubhouse. That's Tuesday at like 7 a.m. our time here in Bali. And that one's for the US market, different person speaking. And then on Wednesday, we either have a live stream replay, or if we can organize it and get it in there, we have another incredible interview that isn't with a live audience. It's a direct live stream to you, which is what we're doing today. And as you know, Speak Up Monday has always been about Destination Indonesia, the incredible people, the different people, the colorful people that Bali attracts. And obviously we love Bali. So this is part of it. This is approaching episode number 200. So our YouTube library, you'll find so many. I know, 200. It should be like 300, like that Greek movie, right, with Gerard Butler. 300. So we're almost 200 episodes, and so look at the YouTube library. So Robert Ian Bonnick, and you got a little dash. Speak Up Monday, and Speak Up all one word Monday. You'll find it. Remember to join the Speak Up Monday group on Facebook. So Speak Up all one word and then group, and you can also find us on Instagram. Now let's move on to this evening. So this evening, as you know, blockchain is the future. Now, if you don't realize that yet, you will do soon. But by realizing it now, ideally you'll be a little bit ahead of the curve as opposed to be behind the curve. So as you know, over the years, we've interviewed a few people doing some very special projects, some incredible projects. Some of those projects have hit a bit of a snag. Like we, as you remember, we had Berwin Tanko here, the CEO, the founder of Ecta, and Ecta has had an interesting couple of weeks. Let's put it that way. And then we've also had, quite a few others like Seeds. That's an amazing project that's also global and going really, really well, actually. So now tonight we're going to talk about Unit Ventures and Michael Healy, who's a co-founder, and why this token economy, why Unit Ventures is the one potentially. I mean, I think you believe so, right? Which is why you're here. Which is really, earmarking the change, this transformation of our economy. And again, I make no bones about it. Those who have researched just a little bit realize that the way that our economy is set up, I think is fair to say that we're in a bit of a trouble zone that people don't even necessarily realize. But pretty soon, I think the shit is going to hit the fan. So that's why blockchain is so powerful and so important. So as you know, my name is Robert Ian Bonnick. I'm your guide, and I'm otherwise known as a tourist or the tourism architect, helping tourism boards and inbound tourism operators to basically find their market and give them help to boost inbound tourism to Bali. So without further ado, long intro, I know, Michael. Welcome, mate. Welcome to Speak Up.
Thank you so much, Robert. I really appreciate being here and the opportunity to have this discussion and share more about why we're so excited about the token economy.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we met some years ago, and I remember you invited me to be like a speaker or a person sharing on one of your great projects, which was the unconference, right? Online, because I think we're still during this crazy time of whatever you want to call this, and it was phenomenal. I met some really interesting people, and again, I always talk about Gino. Gino, if you're watching this, hello, Gino. How you doing, mate? Incredible, impeccable man. And, so met some other really interesting guys and had a really good time. So I appreciate you calling upon me and being able to deliver. But now, people watching tonight, I guess will be divided into those kind of what I call hardcore blockchain web 3.0 or 4.0, whichever iteration you're talking about, and maybe those who are speak up followers and have no idea what blockchain even is. So what we'll attempt to do tonight, our intention is to bridge the gap. So if you are a newbie and you're wondering what the hell this whole thing is, and you'll get information that will leave you in a much better place of knowing what it is, right? And if you're kind of a bit further down the track, or a lot further down the track, ideally we're going to have something here for you as well. So make sure you have a pen, piece of paper, or a dictaphone, or another phone to write stuff down on, because these things are always very revealing. Okay, so we'll start off with a bit of a backstory, and then we'll get into more about unit ventures. So Michael, some people probably know you, some people don't. So, like, where is it that you hail from? Because your accent, at first, I couldn't really pick it, right? So tell us a little bit about your childhood.
Most definitely. So I'm half Singaporean, half British. So my mom's from Singapore, my father's British. I grew up in Singapore, so I lived there till I was 15, and then I went to high school or boarding school in the UK. I lived there for a number of years, and have been living now in Bali for about 3 or 4 years.
Got it. And is there any Scottish in there?
I don't think so. I'm a bit of Irish, so I'm part Irish.
Yeah, Irish. I was like, what is there Scottish in there? No, it's Irish. Cool. And like someone who does something like you do, which is create projects which so many people can contribute to and impact the world on a global scale. Like, if I would ask you, if there was a place in your childhood that you can remember, that you, I don't know, like you began to think about the world differently to other people, because you are different to other people. I'm not sure if you know that yet, but you are, right? But is there anything that came up in your childhood that you thought, looking back, I think that was a moment, that was like a fork in the road, that's where something happened?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it would be starting to build websites and apps, and I think a particular moment was when I got my first computer and just hacking around with it and creating different programs and realizing, wow, I can build things without asking for anyone's permission. I can create things that people are using, people from all over the world who I've never met. I can build something which makes their life better, or allows them to have some fun, or something that they appreciate. So, that moment of like, wow, technology is something that's so exciting and empowering, was something that made me feel I really want to do this for the rest of my life and see how I can use it to help as many people as possible.
Got it. And I love that, making people's lives better. So then if I asked you that, what does making people's lives better mean to you? What comes up? What comes up?
Yeah. So I guess making people's life better is about, looking at what is making people's lives not so good and removing those difficulties. Whether it's previously with access to information, people wanted to find out about news, they wanted to find out about information about a particular topic, and the internet really solved that. Or if you were calling with someone across the world and paying $1 or €1 a minute, that was quite frustrating. And things like mobile applications, chat applications, the iPhone solved that. So really beautiful and amazing thing about technology is it just improves people's lives. It just makes complicated things that are really tough for people so much easier. And people look back at it and go, I can't imagine a time when I lived without my mobile phone, or I lived without the internet. And it just fits into people's lives so much easier, and they have so many more opportunities.
And like it's still present. So this making people's lives better, is there any other experiences? The computer one, I completely get that. I keep thinking of like Atari and, and all of these other ones that people think, what the hell was that? Like Nintendo and anyway. So so like growing up as a kid, were there any other experiences that maybe came later where you really were getting onto this track of, I really want to make a difference. I really want to make people's lives better. Like how did that emerge further down the track?
Definitely. So I guess one experience was I was very interested in studying government and studying politics, and Wikileaks had published this video. It was about shooting innocent people in Afghanistan. No, it was in Iraq, sorry. And it was called collateral damage. Yeah. So it was, people from pilots just shooting at innocent people. And I was like, wow, this is so messed up. Something needs to be done to, hold people more accountable, or, show what news was out there. So, several years after this, I had the opportunity to work for Wikileaks. I built the Android application and helped them with fundraising early on, which is how I stumbled upon cryptocurrencies and digital assets. And I guess, you mentioned Gino earlier. I think he's been a huge inspiration and a mentor. And he talks about how, it's hard to see how all the dots connect, looking forward, but you look back and you see like, wow, it's amazing how something which, you didn't expect would, help you in the future connects back so nicely, even the small subtle things. So that's why I try and live every day and think, okay, wow, what is, today going to bring about? And, don't underestimate or, assume things, and just kind of, let things flow really nicely and really trust one's gut or intuition. So that's really helped me a lot.
And that thing about trust, right? Love that word. like if I would say, Michael, you're a spiritual guy, right? What would you say?
I would say yes, in the sense that I do believe that there's a lot of things which many people assume that they understand, but there's much more to the surface. In the sense that, if you try to explain to a two-dimensional object the third dimension, it's very hard to comprehend. If you could only go forward and back, and you introduce the idea of going left and right, it's like another dimension. Now you introduce the idea of going up and down, right? So now we're in a three-dimensional world. So you explain to someone a fourth dimension, it can be like, I get it, but I don't get it because I've never seen it. So, if you were a stick man and you're told there's something called a human being, which isn't just, vertical, or you look at a floor plan of a house, you say it's got multiple floors, you're like, okay, how did these, blueprints fit on top of one another? Well, you put another blueprint on top. So I really do believe that, looking back at my life, there's been a few things which had a huge, profound impact. And I do believe that, as much as people say, you've got free will or determinism, things are determined, I do think, there are... there's much more to the world and to the universe than we realize. And I used to, I wrote my high school dissertation paper on artificial intelligence and philosophy. And the thesis of the paper was, can a machine be moral? So it kind of looked into, what is morality? Can you program a person? Are things determined or undetermined? And my conclusion back then was, if machines learn very similar to humans, then if you can program a machine, or if you can replicate how humans learn, you can recreate a human and machine. And if you can say a human can be moral, then a machine can be moral. So my thesis was that a machine can be moral. But now I believe, which is different from many years ago, that humans are fundamentally different from machines. I think that there is an element of a spirit or a being which you can't replicate. Yeah, that life, that living being. So it's quite fascinating. And this is obviously with a bit more experience since then, and some personal insight, and meeting people who've taught me a lot. Yeah.
And what I find in what you just said alone is that you've just unequivocally, in a way, like you've alliterated what you said before, right? About I see the world in two dimensions, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And then I see in third dimension, I think, well, what was I thinking?
Absolutely.
Like, God dang. So then, like, if I asked you, like, what else, like, what other kind of outmoded, innocently, maybe naively, but say innocently, what other kind of outmoded ideas or concepts about the world would you have now?
Yep. So, going back to the internet, I've been building internet applications since, the mid 2000s, like almost like 20 years. And people underestimated how big an opportunity it was. People thought that, this internet thing, it's great, use Google, but it's not going to change the world. Or when the iPhone came out, the geeks and the nerds were lining up outside the Apple store, and they said, wow, I can't believe people pay $1,000 for a phone. I'm very happy with my Nokia. And in the space of 2009, when the iPhone came out, to 2021, everybody has a smartphone, and it's completely changed society. Some of the biggest companies in the world are apps or internet companies. I think the next big opportunity is going to be the evolution of how people experience money. So, now information is commoditized. Everyone has access to lots of information. You Google something, you've got more information than the richest person, most powerful person 40 years ago. With the mobile phone, you're having exactly the same messaging experience as, the richest, most powerful person in the world. Same as, much better than actually someone 30 years ago. Because, Bill Gates 30 years ago, he couldn't send a video, receive someone else in the world, or have a live conversation. But now you can experience that. So I'm confident that, by the end of this decade, the concept of money is going to be experienced, the same between the everyday person and the, richest, most powerful person in the world, whether it's, a top entrepreneur, a founder, a top investor. This technology of tokens is going to commoditize it. So I'm really excited about that, because I think the internet changed the world a lot. The mobile phone changed the world a lot. Tokens are going to change the world much more than both of these.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And then outside of Gino, like who would you look up to now and say, you know what, I really respect and admire what this person is doing and their contribution to the world at large?
Really cool. So I guess a few people. One is the founder of Coinbase, Brian Armstrong. So he sees this future. So Coinbase is the biggest exchange in the world. Actually, it's the biggest place you can buy Bitcoin, buy Ethereum, and he's confident that this decade every company will be a crypto company. So I really respect and admire this vision. I think it's something that us at Unit strive for. Something that I personally believe that it's going to help change and help so many people in humanity. Another person who I think is super amazing is the founder of Telegram. He's like a friend for many years and a mentor. And I think he's great because he stands by his values. So, it's very easy to sell out, or, if you get pressure from a government or pressure from, big corporations, it's very easy to sell out. And I think he's done quite well in terms of standing for his values. And I really respect and admire the way he's kind of lived his life in terms of realizing what's really important and having, a really wise perspective on it. Like one interesting, thing I learned quite early is, the life expectancy is about 80 years. 80 years is about 30,000 days, So 30,000 days is not a lot, it puts into perspective. So every day, you're using effectively one of your 30,000. If you used a month, that represents 0.1% of it. So it just kind of makes you appreciate, every moment, and yeah. And if you think about 80 years, you could say your first 20 years, you're kind of trapped in school and, with parents, whatever. Then you've got, 20 till maybe 70, which are like good years, 50 years, and then the last 10. So effectively, the first 20 and the last 10 are, quite challenging. So you've only got 50 really, right? So,
if you're just joining us, so this is Speak Up special with Michael Healy from Unit Ventures, and we're backstory at the moment, and we'll get to Unit. So hang on, people, we're going to get to Unit. There was a quote that I saw the other day, not very long ago. And it was about how do you spend 24 hours, right? So let's say you follow the norm, 8 hours sleeping, like 3 hours eating, and he just knocked it down. And then most people work 9 to 5, right? Maybe now it's a bit different, but anyway, let's say you work 9 to 5. So as it ends up, when you subtract all of the things that you usually do that normal person does in an average day, you've got like not even an hour to yourself when it exercise, meditation, it's incredible. And when I saw that, as well as like, damn, I'm sleeping for too long, because it literally you have to you realize that life is a rush in many ways. And to answer, not even to answer, but to contribute to what you just said as well, this thing about men, right? This was something I heard years ago as well. And it was like, look, men up to the age, sorry guys, but well, I'm not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. There you go. Up to the age of like 20 is just, young, dumb, full of what. And then you get 20 to 30, begins to experiment, but not really achieving that much. 30 to 40 begins to realize, okay, so things are getting a little bit more serious. Maybe they're getting married, they're having kids. And it's like, I need to get my ass in gear. I need to try something else. And then you got the 40 to 50, where it's like, I need to try something, and failing sometimes. And now you're into those who did get a 9 to 5 job and now looking to retire. But here's the thing. Not true for everyone, like yourself. But here's the thing: up until the age of like 40 or so, you're relatively unproductive, and then your productive years are like 45, 50, 60, 70 before the other stuff kicks in. Woo, right? So again, like that time of like 50 years, you shrink it down even more, and then you really start to realize, damn, I haven't got a lot of time.
You appreciate it.
Or better still, you appreciate time more. I love it. So one of the things you said earlier on that piqued my interest, values, right? And depending which group or crew you hang out with, you either talk about values a lot or you don't. So my question then is if I said to you, Michael, what are your top 3 to 5 values and why? What would you say?
Great. So I guess one of my values is treat people how you want to be treated. So I think it's a good one, because then when you do something, you think from another perspective of how you would like if that person did it to you. So if everyone lived with this same perspective, then I think people will be a lot more introspective and treat people a lot better. Number 2, I think, is think in the grand scheme of things. So a lot of people get very pedantic in terms of, if something bad happens, they think, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world, and they get really upset or angry, emotional. And I think, if you think in the grand scheme of things, it's not really that important. So if, something bad happens, don't worry, you'll recover from it. Or, you look at the bright side, the positive side of it. So generally, I think I'm quite optimistic, like radically optimistic, in the sense that, really bad stuff has happened and it's worked out extremely well. So, if you take a grand scheme, picture perspective, it's actually okay. And then the third thing is maybe letting things flow also. So in the sense that you kind of realize that even though things might not be how you intend it to be, just kind of let things flow, and then things generally work out in the grand scheme of things. There was one more I was trying to think. It just slipped my mind. But if it comes back to me, yeah.
Oh, look, it will come back. Because again, by the way, if you haven't noticed, it's very freeform. Nothing's rehearsed. Nothing's written down. So interesting one came up. Radical optimism, right? I believe that I'm a half full person, right? The glass is half full. Sometimes that's annoying to a lot of people, but anyway, I don't care. Here's the thing. The question is this one. So where has radical optimism got you into a spot of bother?
I think it's got me into a spot of bother if I haven't if I haven't really looked into what are the potential implications of my actions. So, like for instance, if I'll give an example. So I went to Africa Burn. So it's like the Burning Man of Africa with a bunch of really good friends. And I got a bunch of fuel for the car, for the van. So I was driving, 10 friends. I was responsible for driving the van. And we almost ran out of fuel. So this was on the way back. So it was like, and I was like, don't worry, we're all going to figure out. And, thank goodness, we managed to find some fuel, but, when the gas was running low on the way back in the middle of nowhere, and, we were dropping off a friend at the airport, and it all worked out miraculously well. But, in the event that, one small thing didn't work out, it would have it would have been a much longer day, So I guess, it's important to be radically optimistic, but be very aware that, if things don't go exactly how you hoped, there is that, downside risk, or you're aware of how what are the potential options. Yeah. So.
Lovely. And so whatever comes up first, right? What has been your most uncomfortable moment?
Great question. I can't think of any specific uncomfortable moment, in the sense that, I have, lived and appreciated my life, where even if really difficult situations happen, I've looked at, the positive best out of it and gone like, wow, if this was a movie, this would be a very interesting scene, And then I used to play a lot of poker, so I played a lot of online poker and a lot of live poker. And when you play a lot of poker, you learn that every day, every situation is like a hand. And you just have to think of your next hand as completely separate from your previous hand. And if you kind of let the current hand get a hold of you, you're going to lose all your money and be really bad at poker. So it's kind of taught me to be quite stoic and really appreciate the moment. And yeah,
that's the first time I've heard that. That's great.
Thanks.
It's the first time. So like what comes up for me when you say that is that. For a while, being a sportsman for many years, not so much now, but I still do stuff, keep in shape. But I always see life, as a microcosm of sport. And depending on who I'm with, whether it's an individual sport like tennis or something like that, or whether it's a team sport like basketball or football, and like the same elements are there, but juxtaposed sometimes, or different emphasis on different elements, but the elements are the same ones. Just like when you make, by the way, I don't cook, and if Marina's watching, that if I'm cooking, you're in trouble. It's like fried egg, steak, and like salad. That's it. So, but if you're making a pasta, you have the same dish. So you're making a boscaiola, you have the same elements that go into it, yet some people can make those elements sing, and this food just jumps off the plate, and it's so delicious, and you're like, oh, this is great. And others make it and it tastes like crap, right? So that's in a way how I see all of this. So it's interesting that you say that. So then we're getting to unit we're getting to unit. So so one thing which I want to understand. So you grew up a little bit in a few different countries. So if you were there, you're saying, well, of the countries that I grew up in, this is what I learned, or this is what I garnered from that country. What would it be?
So I guess in Singapore, I learned what Singapore is actually a really interesting model or case study. It's like 50 years old, and it's the most financially successful place in the world. Wow. In the sense that it was a small fishing village. You had, Lee Kuan Yew, this extremely talented, charismatic leader, lead, a nation of 3 million people to the most successful nation state. However, I think it's had to compromise on a number of other things. I think in terms of happiness, in terms of well-being, in terms of mental health, it's largely suffered. I think in terms of innovation, it could have done it could do a little bit better. But on the grand scheme of things, it's quite an interesting case study and model. I think in terms of the UK, what I really appreciated and enjoyed there is there is a lot more freedom. So people, having spent a number of years in London, there is, London is so diverse. There's many people take you for who you are. They're not going to judge you. If you're if you're into this, there's a community in London who likes that. And I just really enjoy, the welcoming part of it. I think it might have changed in recent years, with, the gentrification becoming much more expensive and, Brexit, the fact that it was so cosmopolitan before, maybe less so now. But, I spent a number of years that I really appreciated and learned from, the tenacity of people and how people live their life. I mean, I've been to 87 countries now, so I've really appreciated, how traveling has taught me a lot in terms of how different cultures live, and the similarities between people, but also the cultural relativism is. So it's two people might think completely opposite things, but they're both correct. They're free to do however they want to do. So I guess one thing we'll think about is, I've been so sure of some things in the past, and then realized it was wrong, and then thought, okay, I need to be less sure of myself and always open to learning. So always be quite humble, and even when I think I'm completely right, just realize, there's a chance I'm wrong, and then also, if I really believe something to be true, constantly, like an intuition, then, go all in and follow through on it. Like, I was very lucky with, the internet, realizing this was a huge opportunity. The mobile phone, being an early iPhone and Android app developer, really fortunate there. So with crypto and tokens, if this was a party, the party's not started yet. So I think I'm very lucky in terms of realizing the potential of what the token economy and cryptocurrencies can be. And I think that the way people look at the space at the moment is going to be so different from how it's going to be perceived and experienced in the next 3 years, in the next 8.5 years. Yeah. Wow. This decade, basically.
Now, look, that would be a great segue, but we're not going to take it. There's 2 more questions. All right. So one question is, right, so out of, it's a double-sided question. So the first part of it is, because you've been a very successful person, right? So the first side of it is, if you could name 2 or 3 like core values which have underpinned your success from the viewpoint of someone else saying, hey, Michael, like, how can I do stuff? How can I move forward? How can I be successful? What would you say those three, I would call them values, but I'm trying to steer away from values, but those 3 things, what would they be?
So one is grit. So like persistence and grit is more or less the same. And it basically means that, I've done some, long distance running or Muay Thai and boxing. And, if you take a long-term perspective where you assume that, you're going to trip and fall and get back up again, or, if I don't, fight, I just enjoyed the exercise of boxing, but if you assume that you're getting boxed down and you need to get back up and it's all part of the journey, then it will keep you going. So, I think I've been very fortunate with a few of my projects, and it's been a result of, many experiences and failures, which kind of taught me, okay, at least I've learned a lot from this. This is what I'm going to apply here. And it's hard to connect the dots, and you see how nice it is. So I guess grit, that's one, persistence. Second one is community. So, I really have been fortunate to be part of, a number of communities and been very involved, as you mentioned, in community building, and realize, there's so much value in, having a network or a community and supporting what you're doing, as well as supporting other people, So I think that's the second one. And then maybe the third one is learning to ask good questions, which I think you're really good at, because when you learn to ask questions, you learn a lot, and you end up in places, experiences which, if you didn't ask good questions, you wouldn't be there. So,
wow, good answer. So then, okay, now this is the final ones in this section. So, and again, I'm steering away from the word value, if possible. So, charisma, wit, persistence, and maybe a little bit of an overinflated opinion, right? Bullshit. Let's call it that. Let's call it bullshit, right? So, which two of those four would you choose above the others?
Okay, so
and why?
What are the four again?
Yeah. So you've got bullshit.
Yeah.
That was my one. Then you've got charisma.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got persistence.
Yeah.
And the other one was what's the other one? Let's go with those three.
Okay, so I guess charisma and persistence, but I guess the key thing about charisma is you still need that substance, because the charisma will get you, open doors and give you opportunities, but if you don't have the substance, then you can't deliver. So you talked about, the making food example. If the food looks really good, that is charisma. It's appetizing, it's interesting, but if it doesn't taste good, then it's just not gonna work. So really, I think the persistence and the grit is what's going to get you the substance. So if you play a lot of sport, or you want to be a world's leading chef, you need to cook a lot of plates of food, before you become, the next Gordon Ramsay. And you can't just assume that if you cook one plate of food like Gordon Ramsay, or you swing a serve like Roger Federer, you are like Roger Federer. You need to do it so many times that, even if you're not trying, you're going to be really good. So in my opinion, it's a numbers game. If you just do things enough, then that's going to give you the ability to do it really well. And the second thing is talent. So I think, sometimes you're going to be extremely talented at certain things, and if you focus on that, then it's going to take you a lot further than things that you maybe were not so talented at. But I guess, where do you find your talents? You just do lots of things that you enjoy, and then there's going to be a point where you don't enjoy it, and if you did a bit more, then you'll find out what really works for you.
And where does your grit come from? Where does it come from?
I think it's the why behind what I do. So if I appreciate the why, then it gives me the ability and passion to work relentlessly and focus on this bigger goal. So it's like, imagine we were going for a run. If we were just going for a run and coming back to this place, it's okay. But if we were going to a run to this bigger place, there's a bigger vision, or we're running to get fit, or to raise money for charity, or like a why. I think the why is really key. So currently my personal why is behind unit and the token economy is to solve inequity. So the way the world works at the moment is a very small group of people, the investors and the founders of things, control a great deal of wealth and resources, and have an incredible amount of money, and most of the population is just kind of struggling. It's kind of surviving, get a paycheck, getting contract work, just surviving. And I think it doesn't have to be this way. It's just this way because of the way the economic system is set up. And what we're going to see in the next 3.5 years is new businesses emerging where not just the founders and investors benefit, but the customers and employees get a piece of the pie. And then those are going to do really, really well. So between 2025 and 2030, every business is going to move towards this community ownership or owned approach. Yeah. So it's really the evolution of equity. It's the evolution of value, values, like you said.
Yeah, we'll take that segue. So let's get on to unit. By the way, Wikileaks, I have to ask you about it, but afterwards, because that's fascinating to me. So, firstly, there are people watching who may know about the blockchain, people maybe who don't know about the blockchain. So let's start off with, if I asked you what is the blockchain, remember we're dealing with people who know nothing and those who know something. So let's see if we can hit those two birds.
Definitely. So I really like this video from 1992. And there was, a TV interview of, what is this internet thing? It's like this email, do you have an email? It was like an American TV show. And it was like this @ sign. Do you pronounce it as an A? So is it Michael A something, or is it A with a circle? And it was just so foreign. People hadn't sent emails. There was not much on the internet. They called it a global network of computers. It's like, okay, like what is this internet thing? Google was 5 years away from being launched. But I guess now if someone says what's the internet, internet was Google. It's Facebook. It's Amazon. It's Netflix. All of these things are the internet. Right. So the blockchain at the moment, the blockchain is Bitcoin, the blockchain is Ethereum, the blockchain is all of these coins. But the problem is we're just so early that they're not very useful. So you talk to a lot of people who are like diehard crypto people, or they talk about Bitcoin nonstop, and you're like, what have you actually used it for? Have you bought anything with it? Have you, done any work for someone and earned Bitcoin? And they're like, oh, well, yeah, it's not supposed to be, I trade, and so a lot of people are just trading, and it's not very useful. But what's coming next is where, this blockchain technology is allowing people to create coins or tokens, and these coins or tokens is going to allow people to do two things. One of them is raise capital. So if you have an idea, I want to start a football club, or I want to start a nightclub, or I want to start a clothing store. You create a coin. This coin is going to help you get the money to make that thing happen. So that's the first thing. It helps you raise capital. Number two is if you already have something which is working. You have a co-working space, you have a fashion brand, you have a coaching business, you have a popular website, popular app. You can create a coin, and this allows you to sell a bunch of that coin, which represents the business that you have. So there's two things. One is for selling a bit of what you have, or getting you capital to start something.
So then, if we're talking about a real world
example,
then you say shares. Right?
Shares, exactly. So tokens are just like shares. The same way the internet is like digital newspapers. So as last time you held a newspaper. It's like a long time ago, right? So shares are the first thing that people do when they have a company. They have an idea, like, let's create a company. We'll divide the company, or how are we going to divide the company? Let's just decide whatever. So the future, they're just going to take out their phone, create a token, and that's going to replace shares. And there might still be banks and companies, shares, but all of this will just be on top of the token layer. So it's kind of like, newspapers still exist. You have the New York Times, you've got the Washington Post, you've got, the Tribune, whatever, newspapers. But they exist on the internet, So there used to be these really powerful things that control the entire news. But now, if you want to start a newspaper, you can start a newspaper. If you want to start a TV show, you've started a TV show, right? If you want to start a bank, you can't start a bank now, but you can with the blockchain. You can if you create a token. So it's really exciting. But it's still so early. So it's, we need lots of successful case studies of, the Robert Bank, where I can go to you, buy some Robert token, and that is the bank of, or the Speak Up Bank, where I can buy a piece of it, and then when Speak Up becomes, much more popular than it is now, or, it gets to episode, 3,000 or 30,000, all of these people are effectively members of the bank, of the nation. That's really exciting.
And so what we're talking about now is proof of work, right?
To an extent.
To an extent, that there's something that you've done, there's someone that's used it, they've created this token, it works, right? So they're out there, they're using it, people have bought into it, like fractionalized banking or something. It's like, hey, I'm part of this Michael token, whatever it might be. And I'm holding it. Maybe I'm not going to trade it. I'm going to hold it, right? I'm going to hold it for a long period of time, which means I'm going to stake it for a long period of time, maybe.
A little bit, but I'm not a fan of this idea of if I buy some Speak Up tokens, or I buy some this like a studio token, or like just hold on to the token, and that's going to make it valuable, because it sounds very similar to, are you familiar with Bernie Madoff?
Yes.
Yeah, like a Ponzi scheme where it's like, let's say someone starts a Ponzi scheme and says, hey guys, buy into this, hold on to it, it's going to make you rich. And then, that person tells two other people to buy it from us. You're like, wow, it actually works. We've made money, And how have we made money? It's because this person has, conned someone else, and it's technically making money. But then if that person can't con, more people, then the whole thing's just going to collapse. So a lot of coins which tell you, hey, stake it here. If you stake it here, you're going to be able to generate whatever yield more than a bank. We think that's kind of like a Ponzi scheme. Because value needs to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
So if you have a successful restaurant or a successful agency, or you're a successful freelancer and you create a token, you're giving products and services to people. People are buying these products and services. It creates some profit. That is value. Otherwise, you're not creating value. So unfortunately, a lot of people in the crypto space, they think you can just create money out of thin air, but it just doesn't work like that. When you create value somewhere, it has to come from somewhere. It's kind of like it's like the law of thermodynamics. You get energy from one place, it goes to the other. And I guess the key is how can you create products or services which create new value, but not at the expense of someone else. So what that basically means is, you've got a bunch of ingredients, you put the ingredients together, and I'm appreciating, you putting the ingredients together more than the value of the ingredients separate. And which is the essence of business. It's like you buy all these ingredients, it costs you $1, you sell the dish for $5. I'm comfortable paying $5 instead of $1 for the ingredients because of the value that you're adding. So that is what tokens should represent. At the moment, it doesn't, but it will get there. And that's what Unit helps provide.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. And so getting a bit deeper into Unit. So Unit is a platform?
Unit is a platform, it's a technology, and we believe it's going to change the world.
Okay. So then why will it change the world?
Yeah. So it's going to change the world because it's going to create this thing called the token economy. So the idea that, Speak Up, has a token, I'm going to give some of my hard-earned money to buy Speak Up token, and I'm going to support it because I have a piece of this economy, piece of the pie, and I'm going to I'm going to work hard to ensure that Speak Up has a long and bright future, And if myself and 250 other people did it, every single episode that comes out, if merchandise got dropped, everyone is going to help make sure that as an economy, as a business, is going to thrive. So at the moment, value doesn't flow around very freely. You've got banks, you've got governments which are kind of blocking and restricting value from flowing. It's kind of like imagine you've got a bunch of ingredients and you're like, Michael, I want to cook you some food. And then you go to the ingredients, you chop up the vegetables, and then someone tells you, no, I'm going to take a few of your vegetables. You can't use these ones. Can't use that one. And the cool thing about tokens is permissionless. Nobody can stop you. You have a really cool project. A bunch of people want to buy into it. You can do it. Nobody's going to stop you. So I really enjoyed this idea of, power to the people. And I think, now we live in a world of a lot of labels. If you think about the idea of countries and nation states, there's about 192 countries. Yeah. And if you look on, a map of the earth, you can't really draw the lines. It's completely made up. So I'm confident that, by 2030, the concept of nation states are going to be replaced by internet nations. So Unit is effectively an internet nation. And what makes Unit valuable is, the value that we generate for businesses and projects and for individuals so that their community can support them. So community token, super cool.
Got it. So what you're saying is a platform, awesome, which other people can come and
create
use.
A token.
Create a token.
Yeah.
They don't get charged. It's free.
No, free to make a token. Yeah.
Free. Okay. It can take as long as it takes you to upload a Facebook event.
Yeah. Very quick. Super.
Right?
So we're the most advanced token builder.
All right. The most advanced.
Seconds, yeah.
Most seconds to build this thing.
Simplest. Yeah.
All right. And then the distribution. How do you get it out to people? It's still up to you to say, okay, I've got a token. Everybody, come and get it.
Yeah.
Right.
So the way we recommend how we structure Unit and how we recommend structuring tokens is this thing called MOPS. MOPS. So we think every organization in the world should have this MOPS set up. Okay. M is for marketing, O is for organization, P is for product, and S is for sales. So marketing is getting people to hear about it. Not to buy it, but to hear about it. So if the marketing team is doing a good job, they're not getting sales, they're getting people to hear about it. They're getting exposure, they're getting reach. O is about organization. So it's getting hires. So if marketing needs some help or marketing is a bit stressed, organization, the O team is going to hire people, it's going to build it, it's going to scale it so that, people are doing a good job. That's the O. The P is the product team, and it's basically to build a product that has a high viral coefficient. And viral coefficient means that, I buy this product, I like it so much, I'm going to tell 5 other people to buy it. So it's a really good product. So that's the P. So it's MOP, marketing, organization, product, and S is sales. So sales is about, when people walk into the door, they're going to help them, they're going to, make sure that they buy it. They sell it to them. So it's very important that these 4 are separate, because if you're doing marketing and sales, or you're doing marketing and product, it's very different,
Yeah. And, why will unit work when sellers haven't?
Well, we've not come across anything remotely similar. So it's kind of like, imagine it's the internet, the new internet, and it's a website builder. I want to build a website. Now I'm having to, in the 90s, you have to pay, $500,000 to build a website. And then someone, Robert is saying, Michael, just use Wix, just use, used to be GeoCities to just create a website. It's just easy. It doesn't cost anything. You can put whatever blog or content you have up there. You don't need to know how to code or pay a coder lots of money, And then I guess, fair enough, some places might let you create tokens, with a bit of code or copy and paste, whatever. We're the easiest way to create tokens. But how do you tell if it's a good token? So, if someone listening, they want to buy Robert token or Michael token, which token should they buy? There's this thing called the treasury. And the treasury is basically where you can tell how overpriced or underpriced the token is. So let's say the Speak Up token. So if there was, let's say, 1 million Speak Up tokens, and they were $2 each. People are buying and selling them for $2 each. That will value Speak Up as a token, or as a token economy, at $2 million. So $2, 1 million tokens, it's a $2 million token economy. Now, if there was $1 million in the treasury, that means that, it's got a valuation of $2 million, but there's 1 million in the treasury, means it's got 50% backing it up. It's 50% hype, speculation, and 50% backing it up. So, Speak Up makes a lot of, profit. It signs a huge deal with Spotify, like Joe Rogan. It, does really well by providing products and services. It means it generates profit, and the profit goes into the treasury. So now if there's $2 million in the treasury, now there's 1 million tokens, there's 2 million in the treasury. The lowest price the Speak Up token is going to be is $2. That means that if I held some Speak Up token, I'm not going to sell it for $2. I'm going to sell it for $5. I'm going to sell it for a bit of speculative pricing. So most tokens at the moment, they're all speculatively priced. Someone's going to tell you, hey, you should buy Bitcoin, you should buy Ethereum, you should buy, this random token. It was 20 cents last week. Now it's, $2. I heard it's going to go to $75, But because it has nothing in its treasury, you've got nothing to compare it to, So if you could look in this treasury and go, okay, how much cash is in the treasury now? Is the amount growing? It gives you that fundamentals to base on. And nobody's viewing the token economy like this. So I think we're quite unique in terms of being in a position to help create this token economy. And we don't view it as a competition. So we kind of think that, we want this to become a reality, and we just want more people to be doing things like us. It's kind of like, imagine the 2 of us ran restaurants on the opposite side of the street. If 2 of us are competing to attract customers or make money, we're in competition. But if the 2 of us are trying to feed our town or village, we're both on the same team. We're trying to do the same thing.
Competition.
Do it on the same team. So effectively, Unit is working on a greater goal, which we think everyone will gradually work towards in the very near future.
Great. So let's go, because I had a chat to a few people about treasury, right, which I didn't really understand.
Cool.
Now I get a better understanding of it. Now, okay, here's one of the things,
Please.
Right, which people tell me. So there are many projects out there, something like, I don't know how many
8,000 tokens.
8,000 tokens,
Yeah.
right? More dropping every day. Every day. I guess you'll be hard pushed to say that more than 90% make it, right? I think it's probably the opposite, right?
Yes.
I think 90% plus are guaranteed to fail, right?
Especially without this treasury function.
Right.
Yeah.
Now with this treasury function, so I get that you're saying that the profit from the token goes into the treasury.
The profit from the business selling products and services go into the treasury, correct?
Okay, and then it's valued upon that based on the amount of shares or tokens which are out there.
Absolutely.
Okay, so number one question then would be, who has access to that, and what stops them from just taking the treasury away?
That's a great question. So the cool thing about the treasury is that nobody can just, run away with it. It's kind of like, imagine there was a piggy bank where the 2 of us as, business partners would fill up that piggy bank. And our investors, our token holders, they are like, wow, Robert and Michael are doing a good job filling up that piggy bank. It means that, they're doing something right. It basically allows you to invest in a project with someone that could potentially be a scammer or a bad actor. Because you just look at the piggy bank, the treasury, and you go, well, there's nothing there. Do I want to put in money knowing that there's nothing there? If they give up or if they close, I'm going to have, percentage of nothing there. But if they could see, wow, this person's working really hard, and they're not just working really hard, but they're building up this piggy bank, this treasury. It's like, wow, not only can I see that they're working really hard, but the numbers say that the treasury is going up. So it kind of lets you look at, say, every business in Asia, in India, in South America, and go, wow, which project is filling up a lot in this treasury? So it's kind of like, imagine it's a bank account that the business can't take money out of, and it's filling up that bank account means that the shares are worth more. And this is something you can do in crypto that you can't do in the non-crypto world.
Yeah. So one thing, so we don't lose people. So what Michael's talking about one of the beautiful things about the blockchain is that everything is completely transparent. So you can see exactly what's going on, and it's immutable. It means it can't be altered or changed. Whereas in the modern world as we know it, off blockchain world, things get manipulated all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Elections,
businesses. There's a great documentary about gerrymandering. If you don't know what gerrymandering is, Slay the Dragon. Watch it. Incredible documentary, right? Gerrymandering, right? So all of this stuff can go on outside of blockchain, and it screws things up. It fucks it up. Let's be straight up. So with blockchain, you can't do that because everything is seen. I can go into, if I know Michael's address, I can go into his wallet. I can view his wallet, and see exactly what's in there. Wallet being where you hold your tokens. And I can see exactly what's in there, when it went in, what has gone out, and how much he has of everything. Right, but I guess there's technology which means that unless I know it's Michael's wallet, maybe I don't know whose wallet it is.
Absolutely. So that's, Google wasn't the first search engine. There were many search engines before Google. Facebook, it was like the 20th, 30th, 40th social network. But the really cool thing is, Google, be all of them. It showed what the an amazing how search and the internet should be. Facebook showed how social networking should be. We believe that tokens at the moment are like pre-Facebook or pre-Google. So like you said, if you knew someone's address, do you really know it's their address? So what we're trying to do is create this radical, transparent, and provide the information, radical transparency, and provide this information to everyone. So if you invested in, your local Warong, or you bought into your friend who's a software developer or a designer or a photographer, you can see how well are they doing from selling photographs, and you can help them sell more photographs. And it's not like you have to call them up and say, hey, remember the $2,000 that I gave you? You said you were gonna give it to me last week. How's business going? You can really just see in real time. And then when the person says, hey, I really need $2,000 to buy a new camera, you can go, well, can I see your treasury? Can I see how well your token's going? Can I actually give you $500? And then, if you build up your treasury, I'll give you the other 1,500. So it kind of aligns incentives, basically.
Okay, great. Now, a few questions come up. So, one, when it comes to the treasury, so who can take the tokens out? Because so far you're saying, if it's Rob and Michael doing a project, the treasury's filling up. That's great. There's value there. I know what it is based upon the amount of tokens there. Mm-hmm. I can value it, and I can see these guys doing the right thing. Okay. Now I haven't got access to the treasury.
We can't take it out.
Correct. So now, out of Michael and Rob, who has access to that treasury? So
the point of the treasury is if people no longer believe in Michael and Rob's project, and they hold 10% of the project, and nobody wants to buy that 10% from them, at least they can go to the treasury and redeem 10% of the treasury and give back their stake. So it basically gives that worst case scenario. I don't believe in this project anymore. I want to sell it. Nobody buys it from me. I can go to that treasury and say, here, take back my tokens and shares. I'm going to get a percent of the treasury. So like, if you think about a Speak Up token, we gave the example earlier, it's valued at $2 million. Imagine it goes up to $10 million. So a million tokens, $10 each. Now, if there was only $1 million in the treasury, that means that there's 1 million tokens, there's $1 million in the treasury. It means that the lowest price that the Speak Up token is going to drop is $1. meaning it could go up to 200, it goes to 300, but it's not going to drop to 50 cents because there's $1 million in the treasury. You know what I mean? And if that went from 1 million to 10 million, or it stayed at 1 million, if someone owns 10% of all of the Speak Up tokens, in the worst case scenario, they can redeem it for $100,000.
Okay.
Yeah. So it gives that downside risk. So you could invest in 70 different projects around the world, in Bali, wherever, and okay, I can see that my downside risk is increasing the floor price. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a very simple thing, but I promise you this is going to change the world.
Yeah. Yeah. So we said before that being on the outside, I can't take it, but I can exchange it.
You can exchange it. So you can give back your tokens and get back the treasury. But
Okay.
but you wouldn't want to do that if someone else wants to buy it from you for higher than the lowest price.
Yeah.
So if there's the Speak Up token is $1 in its lowest price, I would prefer to sell it for $2 or $4 to someone else who believes in it.
Then give it back.
Then give it back, because that would be my worst case scenario.
Okay.
But if you start building up that treasury, the Speak Up community is like, we're gonna get that treasury really, really big, then the lowest price that I'm gonna sell it at is gonna come bigger. So almost no tokens apart from tokens on the unit network have this treasury function. So they're all effectively Ponzi schemes in the sense that if you bought someone's random token and nobody bought this random token from you, you can't go to anywhere and say, hey, I want a piece of this. It's like, okay, I hold something which worthless shares basically. Yeah.
Got it.
So the treasury basically allows for everything in the world to be like a publicly traded company.
Got it.
Yeah, it's very simple, but it's going to change the world.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
So this is a very big thing, right?
Yeah.
So we'll spend a little bit more time, and then
Please.
and then we'll move on.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about the bad actor, right?
Yeah.
Because
The scammer.
yeah,
malicious,
I mean, look, let's be straight, right?
there are a lot of
Human
bad people in the world.
beings,
Yeah.
right? We're wired in a certain way.
Yep.
And not everybody has the best interests at heart of everybody else, for better, for worse.
Yeah.
So there are some who make their living out of, well, how can I scam this? How can I trick this? How can I inflate it? How can I, which obviously in the crypto world is about a pump and dump. I pump the price up. I get the right, okay. You're looking at a person who many years ago, when I got into the crypto world, right? I made some, lost more.
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
It's a very,
Yeah, and like what I began to see was a pattern.
Yeah.
And that pattern was this, right? I go in, from the inside, there's a bunch of guys who get together and say, hey, I've got this idea.
Yep.
It's this expansive, beautiful vision of the world, and people are going to buy it. Right? So, okay, cool. I have a few guys within our group who can make a good website, put it up on whatever, bang, away we go. Now we have a project. We promise we're going to do this thing. Then we bring in our next wave of friends and say, hey, we've got these shares, which we call tokens.
Sure.
Right? We've got these shares effectively, and we're selling them for 0.01 of a cent. Right?
Sure.
Now you buy in, I guarantee you're going to 20x your money within X amount of time. Great. Now the next person, now the marketing machine is going. I get someone's face on there who looks good, smells good.
Yeah.
It's got a great team behind him.
It looks legit.
No product as yet,
but
however, there's this promise of a product. So now what happens is the next group get in, the next raise of capital.
And it goes higher.
Yeah, and that's paying off the guys before.
100%.
So now there's this Ponzi going on.
It's a Ponzi scheme.
Right? It's a Ponzi
It's
scheme.
Bernie Madoff.
Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
Bernie Madoff. So then what happens is eventually then you get to the public launch, the ICO, the idea, whatever you want to call it.
100%.
And the next thing, then people like me on the outside is like, hey, I've heard this guy on this thing say this thing.
He's bought in, I'm going to buy into.
He's going to buy it, I'm going to
She's
buy it.
smart, I'm going to buy into.
Like musical chairs.
100%.
Right?
And the whole thing.
And
so
the music stops. I haven't got a chair.
Yeah.
Ah, shit, I'm
Lose
out.
everything. So the treasury will solve this.
Okay, now, good. Now, my question is this. So if I was a bad actor, right, I know what the treasury is, and I know that if I put more into the treasury, then it will give the perception that we're doing really well.
Well, so
can I do that? Put more in
Yeah.
than I'm actually producing. Maybe I'm losing money, actually, really,
Yeah.
but I'm putting more in borrowed from somewhere else.
So I guess you could do it really early, but then it's going to become way too expensive to do it. it's going to be so hard to pump it. Meaning that, if you pump it from, 10 cents to 20 cents to 50 cents to $1, every time you put more money, it's going to make less of a difference. So if you are a really good marketer, you should, actually work on a real business providing products or services rather than marketing, something which doesn't have a business model or fundamentals or products or services. So, I guess going back to what you said, you've got some really talented people. Like scamming is not easy too, right? It requires, a lot of marketing, requires whatever. If we can get those people to do stuff which is positive, rather than zero sum, it's going to be good,
This I love.
Yep.
This I love. But I'm going to stay there a little bit longer.
Please.
All right. So we've established that it can be done early, but it'll end up costing you a lot.
And it also can't be done early because people are going to see, okay, wow, money's going to the treasury. Where did this money come from?
Yeah.
And you still need to prove it. So you could be like, well, your restaurant's empty or your clothing shop, nobody buys your clothes. But while the treasury's growing, can you show me that people actually bought these clothes to put to go in the treasury? Or is it just your borrowed money or your life savings? And you're not going to use borrowed money because if you put borrowed money in, you're going to have to return that loan, right?
Yeah,
so the cool thing is it's like you can't do this in the traditional business world. You can't, make your books look really good. Once it's very simple, the treasury, but I promise you it's going to solve this. And you can go, well, wow, these 5 projects have nothing in the treasury. I'm only going to put $100 in, because if I lose $100, I'm totally okay with it. But if they grow their treasury a bit by hard work and having a really good idea and actually creating and delivering on the idea, then I might put $500 in, and I might put $200 in, or I might sell half of my $100 I put in, get my money back, and I'm going to keep the rest because I think they're going to be successful.
Okay, yeah. So what I'm reading here,
please,
is that number one, like, you're better off really building something real, right?
100%.
Which I agree with, right? Okay, cool. Slipping into the bad actor. Number 2, if you, it's a court of public opinion, right? So for example, you mentioned a restaurant before. Unless I can see that restaurant isn't doing well, but the money's going in, then I'm just guided by what I see going in, not necessarily what's actually happening. But this court of public opinion is very strong. So there's probably someone on the ground saying, hang on a second.
Something's up.
Something is not going on
here. The
numbers
numbers don't match.
Unless they're part of some massive collusion or scheme. Okay.
100%.
All right.
Or you need to see how many dishes you need to sell, how many drinks. And it's really much sensible to just work on something legit than to manipulate a whole scheme. Because I guess it's like, people say with lying, it's much tougher to lie than to tell the truth because you need to remember everything and how it fits together. But if you tell the truth, it doesn't matter. It's like, it's true, so it's all going to fit together. But if it's it's made up, if it's a scam, you need to make sure that all of these, there's no cracks. Yeah.
Okay. So cool, brother. Thank you for that, and I appreciate you.
I hope it's clear.
Being straightforward. Because again, I am being devil's advocate, not because I don't believe in the project. I'm being devil's advocate because I know that if we're real about it, because we can sit here and blow good stuff up each other's
100%.
butts, but then there's no point these guys watching,
it's a waste of time.
It's a waste of our time and theirs. Well,
Energy.
not maybe our time because we look good, but it's a waste of theirs because they're not getting any value, right?
Totally.
Okay, cool. So we've spoken about the treasury, we've spoken about the bad actors and the different, like, I would put it like this, right? A sunny day is everything is working well.
Yep.
Right, and the sky is blue. We're out getting a suntan. Maybe not me, but we're out improving our tan. I'm just getting vitamin D, and then the weather turns badly. Right, the weather turns dark. Now, so now we're going to move. Could I get the I think everyone does get the understanding of what unit is. Now let's move out because again, you're not charging for it. Right, so it's nothing for people to get involved to use it, right? To create a token, which is awesome, right?
No risk.
No risk. So to me, moving in, there's no risk. Awesome. Okay, and the idea behind it is that you get some ass-kicking projects, which we call proof of work, right? Which are doing really well.
Yeah. Right? Well, it's actually not proof of work.
Okay, good.
It's something else. Just correct.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, which are doing really, really well. Yeah. Right, and then from that.
Yeah.
The token price of a unit itself, like the share price, is raising, right? Because
great question. Why does it rise? Right? That's the key. So it rises because units' main model is generating is getting exchange fees. So if I wanted to buy not Speak Up tokens, I want to buy some Robert Ian Bonnick token. I want to buy $100 of Robert Ian Bonnick tokens. Unit takes a 50-cent fee. So I'm effectively buying $99.50 of Robert Ian token, and I'm doing that because I'm okay with paying this 0.5% fee to Unit, because I think I'm going to make 20, 30, 40%. Because I really believe in your future. Now, Unit takes a 0.5% fee. So I guess on a high level, we think we can do $100 million in trading a day. So we believe that, people are not just going to buy Robot token, they buy Speak Up token, they're going to buy, Tropical Nomad token, they're going to buy, lots and lots of project tokens. Let's say there's going to be 10,000 projects where people trade 10,000 a day. So that's 100 million. Now, with this 100 million, we take 0.5%, which is $500,000. Over a year, 0.5 million in profit makes 180 million a year. So it's like that is what goes into the Unit treasury, which makes Unit valuable. If we weren't doing exchanges, the Unit value wouldn't increase, because people look at the Unit treasury and they go, look, the treasury's not going up. Why is the token going up? It's becoming way too expensive for what it should be. So we think ourselves we need to...
That's a great description, because it's actually, like Adam, like Eve. So it's happening for the guys who are using it, which is great, and it's also happening for Unit as well, which is
a win-win.
Which is great, brother. Great. Yeah. And then so then when it comes to Unit, so what we've been seeing, and again, right? So just as a precursor, because I know that some people feel like blockchain is the future. I'm one of those people. Some people, have been scammed, right? As we said, like if 90% of projects are failing or not reaching or not delivering what they said, let's put it that way, not delivering on what they said, then people need to be wary, 100%. Right? Okay, they need to do their own due diligence.
Absolutely.
And a lot of the time, it's the people in the front who are the ones who are selling the project. In other words, a lot of these projects are very marketing heavy, right? And if you've got a good marketing campaign, if you've got a guy or girl who's able to convey a great message and convey a great story with passion and all the good stuff, right? Then it's like, well, this sounds good. It looks good because the website looks good, and there's a team behind that may or may not be the team, right? Not validated, but they all look good, and this guy probably hasn't checked that his LinkedIn profile is being used.
Sure.
Right. So now we're talking about the people behind it. So we're talking about the guys who created it, right? So in your organization, what's to stop? So what we're asking now is the robustness of your platform behind the scenes. Because we've gone through what Unit is, and it's awesome. Great, right? So the robustness behind the scenes. So what stops someone, this question I don't want to ask you.
Right? Please do it. I think it's amazing. What stops someone from?
So cause I don't need to know this anyway.
No, I think
but the question I would ask is that behind Unit, like who holds the most? If it was a stock, who holds the most shares? And then, so what is the robustness of that? So what we just said is that, a lot of this thing is based, just blockchain in general right now, okay? So not Unit, everything is based a lot around the marketing. It's based a lot around the person who's representing the project. Now, so in my mind, it's like the biggest single point of failure after the project being a scam, if it is that, is the person behind it. So for example, let's take me. So I'm Rob, I'm the guy from Speak Up Monday, and I've done 200 interviews, and I present as this down-to-earth guy, and da-da-da-da, right? Now, as it turns out, Rob is actually a jerk who's a megalomaniac and just obsessed with putting himself on a pedestal, and people find it out and say, you know what, the Speak Up Monday, I don't want to watch it anymore because the guy's a dick, right? So, which is not going to happen, right? But touch wood, right? So, but here's the thing, but then that affects Speak Up Monday going forward, no matter what value is delivered and all the rest of that. So when I say the single point of failure, I'm not pointing a finger at any one project. I'm just saying that in general, I can see that.
People.
So then from a robustness point of view, someone in your position, like how do you cover yourself and unit at the same time?
I guess just replacing or removing the central point of failure. So, we have 63 people on our team now. We're growing it to 200 people in the next 18 months. And, the cool thing about the blockchain is that it's unstoppable. It's open source, unstoppable. So even if, all the 200 people in our team, we feel that we've delivered on our mission, it's grown really big, we've got hundreds of million people unit. If we tried to take it down or stop it, we couldn't. If we all walked away, it wouldn't make a difference. So the cool thing about it, it's like the English language. If you speak the English language and you taught it to me, you can't take it back. Or you've taught me a word, you can't say, please is now a bad word, because you've taught it to me and I've taught it to 5 other people. So it's kind of like mathematics, kind of like the English language, kind of like, drawing circles. This is what blockchain and tokens allow. It allows for decentralization where, even though you created the thing or you're one of the co-founders or creators of it, it doesn't give you control over being able to shut it down because it doesn't belong to just you. It belongs to me. It belongs to all of us now. So even though you might resign from Speak Up Monday, Speak Up Monday as a community or Speak Up as an ecosystem might thrive without you. You might say that, well, you're instrumental, you did all the interviews, but maybe it's more than the interviews. Maybe it's the, it's the community of people behind it. It's the missions and values that it stands for, So it turns everything to its own microeconomy and its own community. And becomes much less about me or I, and becomes much more like we, like the community. Yeah.
You know what I'd love to see, and I think you're of the same mind. What I'd love to see is this, like you call it radical transparency, and I think that's great.
Yeah.
So, okay. Yeah, I'll talk about it.
Yeah, please.
But this one is not to do with you.
Yeah, no, sure.
So what it was, something happened recently to a project.
Yeah.
Right? Not mention the name, and there's some discrepancy. Right? Some discrepancy between, like, did it actually fall of natural causes? Because certain wallets receive certain things on the way. But the thing is that without knowing who those wallets belong to,
you can't tell.
Then do you know it was X or do you know that it was Y? And so what you said earlier on about I guess we call it what, KYC, which is you have to right.
So I think
But how can you?
How do you know for sure? Yeah. So I guess 2 things. One is to assume that everyone's a bad actor or scammer. So there's a quote in crypto: "Don't trust, verify." So if you can't verify it, it's not true. So there needs to be a way to verify. The second thing is if a project hasn't operated for that long, and operations are running, pro successes, not been hacked, then assume that it will get hacked. But Bitcoin hasn't been hacked in 11 years,
That's awesome.
12 years, Very unlikely it's going to get hacked tomorrow. But if a network just launched Solana, it's not been launched that long, got taken down a few months ago, they had to restart and get it back up. That it's a problem. It's like, so I guess the assumption is that if Speak Up just launches a token, if Tropical Nomad just launches a token, it hasn't been going for that long. Don't put more than $100 or $1,000 there. Just a grain of salt. But then once it starts proving its weight, then you put a bit more, and you have to assume that the default state of something is a failure, is a scam, and then it needs to build its credibility by it not being a scam and not being a failure. Because if you assume that, despite being a radical optimist, you have in the crypto space, you have to assume that if there's a way to hack, it will be hacked. If there's a potential chance of the building collapsing, it will collapse, right? So you talk about wallets, you talk about private keys. You have to assume that if these private keys are vulnerable, it will be taken advantage of. Yeah. So you have to put backwards, and then you have to go, if it gets hacked, what do you do? Yeah. How do you mitigate that risk? If let's say, you decided to withdraw money from the unit system to your personal wallet and you lose it, what is the recourse there? So a lot of these things need to do, and that's why I'm so fascinated with game theory, because game theory is all about incentives. Yeah. It's kind of like, you support someone and you want them to succeed. What is your best action to do for them to succeed? Is it to do everything for them? If you do that, they might not learn. If you do nothing for them, they might not have the confidence to get going. So what is your best action to ensure that this individual does perform that. So it's very similar with cryptocurrencies, blockchain, and the token economy, because you need to align the interest of a scammer or the incentive of someone who's going to manipulate the system to where his best or her best action is to do something good because it works for them. And if they did something bad, it will be worse for them. So they don't want to do the bad thing. Yeah.
That's a great way of looking at it.
Yeah, it's really fascinating, and I love this topic so much. So I guess, going back to, you mentioned this project, and, it's countless projects where they apparently got scammed or they actually got, hacked, whatever. I guess the key is or let's say someone starts a company, it doesn't do well. What do they do to make up for that? And how do they respond to those scenarios? Because if in the grand scheme of things, they make it up, then maybe it's okay, But if they just, I have a friend who raised 270 million, bought, expensive cars, apartments, whatever, said, these people contributed to the sale, they weren't investing, I've got no obligation to pay them back. I feel, that's really bad. It's like, this person should have raised so much money to begin with. They should have raised maybe, $2 million or $200,000. And then they prove themselves, they get more resources from society, and then over time, they prove themselves. And now, once they've built a reputation, it's not in their interest to screw everyone over because they're spending all of their reputation. Yeah. You know what I mean? And if it was all, on the blockchain and transparent, and it's not like, people say, oh, it's all on the blockchain, it's all transparent. It's like, the average person can actually read the blockchain and understand it and go, okay, I know this person did this token before, it did well because of this. They did this one before, this. Then it's really transparent and transparent. Because people use these buzzwords, but it's not really where it should be at the moment. Yeah, but I'm more confident that it's going to get there. Just a matter of time.
I love your optimism.
Thanks.
And again, I'm a blockchain, like, what do you call it? I was going to say blockchain archangel, but that's not anyway. But evangelist. That's what I'm looking for.
Advocate.
Evangelist. So then, last question on this one.
Please.
So with your or with companies in general like yours, right? Mm-hmm. So is there like a vetting? Because I think a lot of things that scare people, right? Now in the off blockchain world, you have things like, independent arbiters, which, half the time not really independent, are they? Mm-hmm. But anyway,
100% judiciary system, government, whatever.
But let's just go with it for a second.
Lawyers,
pretending that there's no bad actors.
Absolutely.
But you've got these arbitrary, independent people who come in, and audit you.
Right? 100%.
Audit. Okay, you've been audited.
Yeah, you're good. You follow the books.
You're in prison.
Yeah.
Right now, blockchain is Wild West for some people from this perspective.
Yeah.
So then, how does a company like yours take responsibility? So what steps do you have in place, to ensure that no one in the co-founding team ecosystem does say, you know what, this is going pretty well, the price has gone up, I'm taking my money out and I'm getting out of Dodge.
Yeah. Good.
Or that I am, again, the transparency of blockchain doesn't allow this, but however, I still need to be audited, or do I?
Mm-hmm. So the treasury is like a real-time audit.
Okay.
Yeah, in the sense that, if you start the Speak Up token and lots of people buying the Speak Up token and it pumps really high and you're like, okay, I'm going to sell my Speak Up tokens because, if I sold it or not, I'm going to make a lot of money. Then, the price of it is going to drop to maybe a more healthy point, and, now maybe it's going to be more distributed. So you just need to align the incentives. So, and I guess, what are we doing at Unit to make sure that, it's not just countless scams like the 2017 ICOs or what we see with DeFi now, where or NFTs now, where people are just making random NFTs or DeFi protocols, just to, do a cash grab, is we assume that anyone who's making a token is a scammer. Even if they're a super high flying business person, entrepreneur, expert with a crazy audience, they're a scammer. And they need to prove that they're not a scammer by building up their treasury, and it's in their interest to build their treasury by building a real, project with a product and a service which benefits people, so that they can charge more than what it costs them, so that they can fill up the treasury. Because if they didn't do it that way, it's going to be very hard for them to build their treasury. You know what I mean? It's really that simple. And it's the same as like social media. Anyone can create a social media account, but to build up the following, for people to enjoy your content, you need to be early. I guess it helps, and you need to have really good content. Because if you post not so good content, people might unfollow. Or if you have a token which doesn't build its treasury, people will go, hey, I have a nephew, I have a friend who's open up a new project. I prefer to sell my tokens in this, which is not growing. put down its price to a bit more healthy and support this thing where, the treasury is growing. So you end up with a much more fair and efficient economy. Because, I used to work in a venture fund in London, like third biggest in Europe, managing 800 million euros, and, invested in super interesting companies like Spotify, Dropbox, and Zalando, like big e-commerce company in Europe. And, we managed, a decent amount of 800 million euros, and we only invested in like 50 companies in the 8-year life cycle. So on average, we had 3,000 people pitch a year, and we invest in like 7 or 8 of them. So it's just not fair how value is distributed at the moment. And a lot of times how people raise capital, it's kind of like, hey, he's my friend, I'll throw a bit of money at him. And if you don't have any, friends who have a lot of money, or you don't have a track record, it's just really hard to raise a small bit of capital. So the cool thing about tokens is if it's your first project, it's your first token, you'll raise, $20,000 or $50,000. Try and pull that off. Run a successful small operation. It works. Next time you do it, it'll be $500,000 operation. Next time you do it, it'll be a $5 million operation. Then 50 million. Then 500. Then whatever. So it's really like people work their way up. So I'm really excited for that because it gives much more opportunities to people. And for me, I've been so lucky to get amazing opportunities because people gave me, a chance, or they gave me, open doors for me. And obviously I had to work super hard for it and put myself in positions that got me there. But, I think it should have been much easier. And with tokens, it will be much easier. Yeah.
Look, I love the philosophy of tokens, and what you're doing, right? And a few questions, but as usual, drop in. So it's okay. So we get the platform. We get that when it comes to not regulation, but when it comes to ensuring that people are doing the right thing. And what you're basically saying is that's tied and linked to the treasury.
Yep. That is the crux of it.
Yeah. And and then when it comes to bad actors, you kind of build the system based upon bad actors, right? If everyone is a bad actor, this is what they would do. We have steps in place to ensure that doesn't destabilize or just completely wipe our project out.
It just makes it very hard to do a good job.
Makes it hard to do a good job.
It's kind of like you try to throw a party where you were gonna do something really bad at the party. If your music was really okay, I mean, music would be a good example. But if people could tell, okay, this is a bad project because the treasury isn't growing, and they see if the treasury is growing, it's not growing in a sustainable way, they're going to be like, okay, I'm going to move into something where it's more transparent, more legit. It's just self-regulating. It's kind of like you don't need to tell your body to breathe. It kind of does it by itself. So the cool thing about this system is it just does it by itself. Like the cool thing about Bitcoin is nobody's telling Bitcoin what to do. Oh, like another cool example someone recently said, which I thought was fascinating, was if there was a central person trying to tell the city of London exactly what they're gonna have for lunch, and they've got 50,000 chefs trying to feed 5 million people, 3 million people. It would be so tough to do that logistically. But every day in London, everyone kind of gets 2 meals. There's different restaurants, there's different places to eat. But this isn't centrally planned. There isn't one person who wakes up every morning and is like, okay, it's a Tuesday, we're gonna feed all of these people. It just happens. So the cool thing about how do you prevent bad actors from doing a good job is the cool thing about the treasury is it doesn't allow for them to steal money, because the moment they steal a small amount of money, they can't steal anymore. And they need to deal with this person who they've stolen money from. But they can't steal, a great deal of money. And if they wanted to make a lot of money, they couldn't do it by scamming. They do it by building a good business with products and services so that will allow them to get their own goal. Because scammers, they don't enjoy scamming people. They enjoy, why they do it is because they want to make money. So if they found that, it's easier for them to make money by delivering a product or service, they'll do that rather than scamming. Yeah. So I'm really excited because I think this treasury solves in a way which people don't realize. And it's really groundbreaking, but it's quite simple.
So then, last few questions.
Please.
Probably.
Yeah. I'm enjoying this.
They just drop in. Good.
Thank you.
If someone says to me, there's no holes in this project whatsoever, depending on the person I'm talking to, it gives me a certain impression.
Sure.
So without leading you at all,
Yeah, please.
much. All right. So, two questions.
Yeah.
Like what has been or what have been some of the biggest challenges you've faced getting unit up, and is it 100% foolproof?
Great question. So I think the proof is in the pudding, in the sense that if it's not really big and working yet, then you can't say you can say it's going to be, but if it's not done yet, it's not done. So it's kind of like you have these ingredients. You say, I'm gonna cook the best dish, until I taste the dish and it's fed me. Tastes good. Then you know what I mean, or the next day, basically, right? Then you can say whatever you want. You can show me what it's like.
I'm loving that food analogy, man. Right? I'll use that again.
Right? But until I've tasted the food, and you've made it for a few other people, then it's real. So I guess we're just so early in this token economy that we don't have 100 projects that you can look at yet and say, look, these are 100 projects which are launched with tokens. Just do the same as them. But it just takes time, because it's education. It's community building. It's working with the case study. So within Unit, we've got 5 main initiatives. Our first one is conferences. So we've held thousands of conferences, events, think tanks. I'm really grateful to you for speaking at one of them. I really enjoyed your presentation. So conferences, we're now running 50 different forums this month and the next 2 months. Ventures, which is like, if you've heard of Y Combinator, is the biggest incubator accelerator. We're doing that for the token economy. Our first batch starts in January with 30 projects. We're increasing it to 100, then 200, then 500, then 1,000. So this is basically helping token-based projects succeed. It's like a initiative, incubator accelerator. The third one is so it's CVMUN. That's how I remember it. So M is our master's program. We're now our 7th batch of the master's program, where we basically educate people about the token economy. So they kind of learn, what is a scam? They kind of learn about what wallets are, what addresses are, what a blockchain is, what's the difference between a coin and a token. Why should I even care about any of this? That's the masters. How can I benefit? Why should I care about this nerdy stuff? What can this do for me? How can I use it for my business, which is not techie at all? That's the master's program. Use our university. This is like Wikipedia for crypto. So I love Wikipedia because you can read something about anything there. But there's not a lot of information on the crypto or the token economy. So we're basically building this knowledge base for crypto tokens and specifically the token economy. So if I looked at, say, the Speak Up token within university, it will give me history. It will give me background. What were the problems it faced? What are the successes it's accomplished? What is the future roadmap? And anyone can edit it. So it's kind of like a collaborative journal, And then finally is the news. So we want to, publish this, Huffington Post style publication where people can learn and understand lots more on the cutting edge within the token economy. And then maybe take it a step further. Unit basically powers 3 types of tokens. It powers a number of stable tokens. So things like, the IDRU, the Indonesian rupiah on Unit, or, the GBPU, the Great British Pound on Unit, or EURU, the European Euro on Unit. So these are stable coins, or things like BTCU, Bitcoin on Unit, or ETHU, Ethereum on Unit. It also powers industry tokens. So we thought, what are going to be the biggest tokens in the next, 5 to 7 to 8 years? It's going to be industry tokens. It's going to be things like the movie token, or the or the art token, or the fashion token, things which represent entire industries. Kind of like if you could register fashion.com, 30 years ago, it would have cost you $10, and now fashion.com is, very valuable, or movie.com, or code.com, or design.com. It's essentially ticker name. So we're doing that for big industries, and we're doing it for cities too. So like the New York token, the London token, the Sydney token, the Tokyo token. We're getting a large amount of capital behind each one, putting it into the treasury to back it up, and putting together teams of about 200 people for each industry and city. So thanks.
What I like, what I'm hearing is that, this is the infrastructure that you're looking after.
100%.
Right? And it's not just, this is my token.
And that's it. Please buy it because someone else can buy it for more.
Please buy it and then sell it. Right?
100%. It builds a structure.
This is making way for the whole economy.
Absolutely.
Which I think is very cool.
And the cool thing is, I've been fortunate to speak with, some of the leaders in this industry about this kind of stuff, and a lot of them don't see yet how revolutionary it's going to be. Like, actually, one of my best friends who introduced us a few years ago, Marek, Yeah. So Marek, he actually built a lot of the code for Ethereum. So like,
right, yeah.
super smart, genius, but he doesn't see how revolutionary tokens are gonna be, you know. And it's like, wow, you know,
Marek, how could you not see it?
right? I'm like, wow, he's one of the smartest people I know, and he doesn't see how revolutionary this industry is gonna be, you know. Or like, you know, the head of Polkadot, which is what we're building, or Ethereum, the CTO Gavin Wood. You know, I spoke with him about having tokens for everything in the world, and he's like, Michael, you know, it's very unrealistic that there's going to be tokens for everything. You know, he doesn't have enough confidence in society to hold on to tokens. He, you know, gave the example of the postal service in the UK, where everyone was basically given shares of the postal service because it went from government to private, and they just sold their shares right away, right? So, you know, it's easy to be pessimistic on society and assume that, you know, if you gave lots of people speak up tokens, they could be like, oh, I don't care about it, you know, and they're actually going to contribute and help grow the organization. But I'm 100% confident, optimistic, and have no doubt that we're going to end up in a society where every single project in the world will have a token, and the customers and employees will have a piece of it. And then, you know, the idea of governments and nation states will be a very different experience than it's not. Like that piece of paper, that passport, you know, which tells you where you can go, where you can't go, what you can do. You know, it's going to be like in museums. You know, it's like you look at it and you go like, wow, I can't believe 7 billion people in the world. Some of them had pieces of paper which told them what their rights were. And if you were born in this part of the earth, it meant that you couldn't go any part of the earth. Right?
It's amazing when you look at it like that, you know, like someone coming down from space. Like, you did what? Really? For how long? What?
Yeah.
Till how? What the heck? You guys are nuts, you know.
Right?
So that
Unbelievable.
wouldn't surprise me. But I mean, what would you say then? Right? Is like, what's the biggest threat, and like your biggest challenge with unit now, and then the one that faces the whole industry?
I think it's just time. So it's education, it's positive, good case studies, because the same happened with internet companies. You know, if you started an internet company in 1995, and you're like, hey Michael, I've got this great idea, internet company. I'm like, how does it make money? And you're like, oh, a lot of people are going to use this internet thing. So not many people use it now. So my website's not so popular. You know, people don't trust putting credit cards on the internet. It's not super popular, right? But it's going to take off. So it took, you know, 10, right? And internet companies have done really well. You know, e-commerce companies, website platforms. Same with the iPhone apps, you know, Android apps. When the iPhone came out, it's like, you know, download my app. It's going to be big, you know. But the first apps, you know, they didn't make any money. When Instagram got bought for $1 billion, you know, by Facebook, people were like, this is ridiculous, you know, like it's only 18 months old, you know, it's used by 30 million users who don't pay anything for it. It's like a camera app. You know, Apple could just add this feature of, you know, filters, and it's going to kill Instagram. You know, but now Instagram's the most valuable asset of Facebook, and it's an amazing acquisition because they notice, you know, the power of mobile. So the companies, the businesses, the organizations, the communities that see the power of tokens, these are the ones that are going to survive. Because, you know, if you don't have a stake in Instagram, you don't have a stake in Facebook or Snapchat or Google or, you know, Zoom or, you know, Uber, you're not going to use it. You're going to use the one where you've got a piece in. You know, if you're thinking where to go for dinner, you know, you're going to go to the restaurant where you have a piece of, because it's your restaurant, you know, one of the 50 restaurants that you have a piece of. You know, and there's a new restaurant that opened, and they're not going to let you buy into it. You'll be like, I'm not going to eat there. It's a bit selfish that, you know what I mean? So it's going to be the norm. It's just a matter of time, education, and we need good case studies. We can't have case studies where people, you know, create a token, they run away with a bunch of capital, and then, you know, people get screwed over. They say, I'm never going to buy a token again. They need to buy into, you know, a speak up token. Speak up token does really well. You know, it builds a really good economic engine business. They make money from it. They buy other tokens, and it's just going to ignite. Like, we think we're in 2021 now. 2025 is when the early adopters are going to be, you know, using it. So we've got 3.5 years now to get, you know, very cutting edge innovators, techie people like yourself or I who see the future to use it. That represents like maybe 3 or 5% of the population. And then from 2025 to 2030, we're going to get the farmer who needs, you know, $100, you know, to pay for seeds, to pay for equipment, you know, to create a token so that we can buy into his token so that he can buy, you know, for crops. And then when he makes money from selling his crops, we get a piece of it, and he's going to do a bigger one so that we're going to buy it again. So it's like, it's the same with smartphones. Like, you know, when the iPhone came out, it was $1,000. Nobody apart from the people who slept outside the Apple store got a smartphone.
That's right. Yeah, remember that.
And now, you know, the person without a clean toilet in rural China or Africa or India or Indonesia, they might not have a clean toilet or hot water, but they've got a smartphone. Right?
It's so damn true.
Yeah.
And like now with the platform, are there many people using it at the moment?
Yep. So we have about 200 tokens issued. We have 30,000 people in our community. We're increasing our usage and momentum behind it.
Brilliant.
We're releasing a bunch of cutting edge features. When you create a token, apart from the treasury, you also have a bank that gives you how much funds this project has to use. So the treasury gives you the lowest price of the token. The bank gives you how much funds it has to grow, to hire people, to pay for rent, to operate. Basically, that's the bank. Also, as an exchange. So when you create a token, people can automatically exchange, buy, sell, trade it. So that's another one. Also has a contest feature. So you could say if you repost a picture in our establishment or with one of our products, we're going to give you some shares or tokens, a piece of it, because you're instrumental to our marketing. Or if you say, hey, we need a new table for our office, we'll give you a piece of our project if you gave us a table.
Nice.
So people can basically submit, say, I've got this table, can I give it to you? Or I can build this video for you. Use this. So that's the contest feature. The stores basically let people sell products and services for that token. The polls, that's very relevant for governance. So if you're thinking, should I move from Speak Up Mondays to Speak Up Sundays? Then people can vote and say, I actually prefer Sundays because Speak Up Sundays is SUS, Speak Up Mondays SUM. Or like Sundays more convenient. It's like governance, so the community can vote. Yeah, and then a few other things like transparency of the leaderboard to see who the biggest holders are, and you can see their names. The transparency of the team, how much the team is getting. You can see what else do we have? You got a number of features like this, a bunch of powerful ones.
You got some features going on.
So it's going well.
And interesting enough, with the governance piece, again, friends of different projects, right? I know that the governance piece is one thing that they struggle with the most because, one vote per person is great, but then, votes can be swayed.
How do you govern?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, certain voters, if you have 100 voters and you're talking about a specific thing, right? You're looking at, how we're going to improve our wallet.
Yep.
Now, maybe
so the people
50% of those people know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, 50 have no clue.
And maybe they've got no clue.
They just listen to him or her.
Or just choose their favorite color.
100%. It's ridiculous.
So how do you do the governance?
we think UNIT is not in a position to decide how to govern. We don't think liquid democracy is the best. We don't think dictatorships is the best. We don't think, communism is the best, hardcore capitalist. All we do is we provide a very transparent system. So it's up to the team, the community to interpret the data. And as long as it's not even confidential, so everyone can see what everyone's vote is. And then we can look at the votes and go, okay, based on these votes, how do we interpret the data? So the cool thing is this basically allows people to have a say. And it doesn't actually favor the people with the most tokens or the most shares or votes, like how companies operate. It could take into account, the people who understand things a lot more. It could take into account the number of people. So it might be one person who controls 80% of the votes. Tokens say, I want this. 100 people might hold 20%, but they say they want this. And if the operators don't listen to the 80 people, they're going to start selling theirs, and move on to another project where they listen to the people. So, like for instance, if you want happy with a feature on, a particular app or social media platform, the billions of people, the hundreds of millions of people can vote, and then collectively it's like, wow, the platform is not serving us as the people. We're going to move on to something where we can. And the other issue with, it's called Web 2.0 platforms, so, many of the most popular platforms, is it basically doesn't allow you to have access to the data. So you couldn't, create a better version of Facebook tomorrow because Facebook holds all of the pictures, they hold all of the messages. You couldn't make a fork of it,
Yeah, that's right. And, this thing about the founders again, right? Back to the founders. It just pops in. So, and you don't need to tell me the percentage, right?
Please.
You don't need to tell me the percentage. But, part of the way that this whole blockchain ecosystem works is, they have this decentralized approach, right? So it's decentralized, meaning no one player can sway this any one particular way necessarily.
Absolutely.
Right? They don't have all that power. But what I've noticed is that some of the founders in these projects, they hold if it was shares,
Mhm.
they hold the lion's share of the shares. So therefore, at its fundamental essence, it's not decentralized because one founder or a group of founders, they own 80% of the pie.
Majority, like.
Yeah, so a unit or you can answer this however you want.
Sure.
A unit, is it to that level decentralized, or is there a plan to be that level decentralized?
100%. So as a unit, we only get 20% of the tokens,
Yep.
and that's split amongst 200 people. So effectively, as one of the co-founders, I get 0.1% of the total project. Most of the time, if you started a company, you get 100%. If you brought me in, you might give me 50%, 50%. Or you might say, Michael, since you started, I came on board, I get 20, you get 80. And then let's say two of us get some investors, we now reduce from maybe 80-20 to 40-10, and we bring in another investor, 50%, and we get diluted, right? The cool thing about unit is, 80% of it is distributed to the community, and the other 20% is distributed among 200 people, and it's with a 3-year cliff and a 5-year vest, meaning that if I left after 2 years, I left after 2.5 years, I don't get any of the unit that I get as a co-founder. If I stay for 3 years and I leave, I get 60% of it. If I work on it for 5 years, I get 100% of it. So it's very clear that it's my interest to put hard work on it for 5 years, then I get those for free. And if I want more, I need to buy it, same as everyone else. So you could say for Speak Up tokens, I'm gonna get this amount of Speak Up tokens because I was the person who does this, and that's why I think it's fair. Now everyone can see exactly how much you're getting, and they can see what is the cliff and the vest on it. They can see over what period of time do you get this for free effectively. And then outside of that, they can see how much you've bought. And when you buy it, this money goes into the bank. They can see exactly where it flows. So the key is just to assume that, okay, something goes wrong. Is all the data out there so we can work backwards? And it's not in, really long keys where people are like, okay, is this Robert's key or is this Michael's key? Is this the British?
It's clear, right? Yeah.
It's clear. It's usernames, it's names, and it's like, anyone who wants to, do their due diligence or dig deeper, they can see, okay, this is this. And they can look at any project that's new and they just work backwards and really understand and learn from it.
Got it. And what's the exit, right? So people don't talk about the exit.
Mm-hmm.
They it's always a sunny day.
Yeah.
Right? And I include myself sometimes in this and like this. Now I look at a little bit about the exit, but I didn't even see it before.
Yeah.
So let's say that Michael is no longer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, interpret that however you want,
sure.
but please not in the worst way.
Yeah.
Right? So Michael's no more. He's out of unit, right?
Yeah.
What happens to unit? What structures, systems, checkpoints in place do you have to ensure that?
So I guess the whole point of unit is that it follows on decentralization, where we're building it and it's being built in a way where us as the core team or myself as a co-founder is in a position not to be able to shut it down, or people say rug pull, where they just pull the rug and the whole thing collapses. Yeah. We're building it such that this is going to be around in 500 years time. Where people can build on top of this fundamental layer. It's kind of like the English language. The first person who invented different words in the English language, they probably are no longer around, but they set the building blocks. So the way we're building it is such that similar to a language or a concept like mathematics, it's established and it can be built on. And regardless of whether I or our team changes as a person or our viewpoints, it's decentralized and it doesn't allow for us as individuals. And if people aren't happy with the system, they can do a fork, so they can build their own version of it. Yeah.
Got it. And then a lot of people talk about maybe a slightly more techie question, only slightly.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause I'm not really techie.
Yeah, please.
Don't even pretend to be.
Yeah.
So a lot of people talk about this interoperability. In other words, if I was paying by credit card for something, or I have a service that I'm selling. Mm-hmm. I only use PayPal. That's one provider.
Sure.
Whereas what we do is I use Stripe, I use PayPal, I use this, I have a whole bunch.
Services.
So interoperability being that you accept so many different forms of, in that case, payment. Now, so you're using Polkadot.
Polkadot. So that's our base layer.
Yeah, that's your base layer. So just to let people know what it is and why you're using it.
So I guess this concept of interoperability, it's a really tough word to pronounce, and what does it even mean? So basically it's kind of like email. So email, if you had a Gmail, I had a Hotmail, she's got a Yahoo, she's got an AOL. If you had to create a Hotmail, a Gmail, and AOL to email us, it's pretty frustrating, right? But the cool thing is, email servers are, I can email you, you can email me. It doesn't matter. So you can think of blockchains as highways. So it's kind of like you're on the Bitcoin highway. Now if you wanted to go to the Ethereum highway, you need to get a forklift, lift up the car, and then drop you down onto the other one. And that's an exchange. We're basically lifting you up. And exchanges, they can get hacked. You can put on the forklift and the forklift collapses and the car gets damaged. So interoperability is basically how can we get this highway to go onto this highway without a forklift, where you can just drive and go, kind of like email. So it's actually a very challenging thing because blockchains are built differently. So Bitcoin's a blockchain is built differently to Ethereum, it's built differently to Solana, it's built differently to BNB. It's all quite different in terms of the highway. How do we connect these highways? So there's this thing called bridges, and the cool thing about Polkadot is it has this thing called XCMP, cross-chain messaging protocol, and it basically allows them to talk to one another. So I guess going back to your previous question and point about exit, how do people exit? So that's when they can sell on the exchange. So, if I bought some Speak Up tokens, like, why am I buying it? If it was a company, I would be buying it because, if I bought it for financial reasons, I would hope that a bigger company buys it, or it goes on the stock exchange and I sell it on the stock exchange, or it makes so much profit that I get a dividend payment, How it works with tokens, instead of me getting dividend payments, those profits are going into the treasury and I get a piece of the treasury. And if the profits stop going to the treasury, if there's no more economic engine, then the exchange price will keep dropping until it reaches to what's in the treasury. Because people are not paying for the future earnings; they're just paying for whatever its past earnings are. Yeah, I mean it's quite simple, but it's super powerful and amazing because I think this is just going to support so many people who want to be entrepreneurs, but they don't have the confidence, or they worry about how do they do all of the marketing, sales, fundraising, sorts of pieces, because it allows different people to work together in a very transparent way.
Yeah. And so on that, and you gave it that great anagram earlier on about the marketing and the sales and so on. So now, MOPS, there you go. MOPS, people, not the mop on the floor, MOPS. So then how does, so you help people. Say if I'm coming on board with Speak Up,
sure,
right? And I knew nothing about marketing or any of it. So do you provide that support, or do you?
Good question.
How does that work?
So we basically want a token. So if you had a Speak Up token, we want your token to have a marketing person, to have an organization person, to have a product person, and have a sales person. So there's at least 4 people in the project. So that if lots of people are hearing about it and not many people are buying, then it's not the marketing person's issue. It's the salesperson's issue. If lots of people are hearing about it, buying it, but they're not telling their friends, it's not the marketing issue, it's not the sales issue, it's the product issue. Because they're hearing about it, they're buying it, but they're not telling their friends because the product's not good. Now, if the 3 of us are stressed because there's just so much work and we need some help, the organization person is helping us find more people to scale it. So, we think it's quite a simple formula, but we think that this can be applied to any business or any project or any organization.
So you mentor people, or you give them the roadmap?
I mean, we have a number of like the ventures programs, the conferences, and we make it really easy in the system for when someone looks at the project, they can see, okay, how many marketing people does it have? How many organization people does it have? How many product people does it have? How many sales people? And you can look at any token and see what are so basically the 4 metrics behind marketing, organization, product, and sales. Marketing is how many signups you have. So if Speak Up, how many people are signing up, for the Speak Up token, they're hearing about it. They're not buying maybe, but they're signing up, they're hearing about it, they're being marketed to. Organization is how many hires have you done? So how many people have you hired? How many people have you hired are staying? That's the organization metric. P is the product metric. How viral is it? The viral coefficient. Every person that signs up, how many people are they, telling about the product and getting them marketing for them without the marketing team. And then sales is how much sales is it making? How much cash is it bringing in? So we think that this can be applied towards any project. Yeah. Kind of like the internet can be applied towards any project.
I mean, we're almost done. Okay, I can feel we're coming towards the end now.
I've enjoyed it.
It's fascinating because part of this is me asking questions for other people. Part of it is me asking questions for me, and part of it is questions coming in and me asking those questions. Right, 3 different places where questions come from for this one, and I'm pretty sure that everyone's got a pretty good handle on what it is that it is, kind of a little bit more about you, because I think look, at the end of the day, human beings, we are attracted by other human beings, but what we like to do with this is to get a grounded sense of who that person is, so then people have an idea on like who they're dealing with, or who they're buying into, even though they're not buying into you, but it's a product of you.
I understand.
Right. And so yeah, I've been happy with how you've been very forthcoming, right? Which I would expect nothing less from you, by the way.
Thank you.
So I appreciate that,
Yeah.
right? And I appreciate that, you've gone into quite a lot of detail.
Thank you.
And for some people, it might be, oh, too much detail. But others are like, oh, yeah, give me more, give me more, right? For me personally, it's been a great journey, because I've gotten to understand other things that I never saw before, and understand in a deeper way a little bit about the Treasury, because a lot is based upon that. And also, some of your roadblocks, what are the potential sources of, not failure, but the potential forces of potential bad actorship, if you want to call it that, and how you're looking to close those loops or close those opportunities by, again, and we've been through lots of stuff around that. Like, before I ask you this question of what else would you like to see, what was like the hardest part of this whole project? What comes into your mind when I say that the hardest part of this whole journey?
A great question. So I think the most difficult, hardest part of this project is building something which is sustainable and doing things from first principles. Because a lot of people in the crypto space, or a lot of people in the business space on the world, they do things because other people are doing things a certain way. And not really understanding why they're doing things a certain way, or like why they should be doing it now, or having a level of depth. So a lot of people are creating NFTs now because NFTs are the hot topic. They hear like so many people are making money from NFTs. A lot of people are creating DeFi projects because DeFi is in, or they are, becoming, doing this, going to this place because everyone's doing it. So the hardest or most difficult thing, or the thing that we've worked so hard on, is asking ourselves, okay, why are we doing this? If we do this, what does it mean? Or like, if we do this, what is the best case scenario? What is the worst case scenario? And just keep asking why. Look, so really, like, it's much easier not to have a treasury. It's much easier to be like every other crypto project and run a Ponzi scheme. To say that, cryptocurrencies or tokens are like currencies. Currencies don't need to be backed by anything. Tokens should be like money. They shouldn't be like shares, because it's medium of exchange or all of this nonsense. But we think this is just a very lazy approach. If let's say you were the founder of a $10 billion protocol, like you have maybe 1 billion tokens and they're worth $10 each. If you didn't have a business model, it's very easy for you to say, oh, us as a token, we don't need to focus on a business model. If you don't have a product or service that we can offer, it's like, oh, we're an ecosystem. You're buying the community value. So it's kind of it's an easy pass. So I guess we've had to stick to our principles and realize that, okay, even though everyone else is doing it this way, we shouldn't do it this way. And the other thing is, if you have a $10 billion protocol, for you to have 10% backing, you need $1 billion. So you need a lot of capital in your piggy bank or treasury to get 10%. If you want to get 20%, it's $2 billion. So it's much easier for you to say, hey, let's forget about the treasury thing, because you want to get to 50 billion. And if you want to get to 50 billion, you need to get, for 10%, you need 5 billion. So it becomes much more difficult. But then, as a unit, we're not in a rush. Our most important mission is that, we move towards this token economy where, there's much more fairness and equity and equality, not necessarily equality, equity, like fairness. We don't want everyone to be even. We think there might be a disparity, but at least pull everyone else up. And our main goal is to get us there. And if it takes a little bit longer, which it has, that's totally fine as long as we get there. We're not in a rush, because when you rush, you might make mistakes, or you might jeopardize the quality of what you're doing. So we're confident we're going to get there in the next 3.5 years to get the early adopters behind the token economy, and by 8.5 years to get everyone in the world behind this token economy. So yeah, thank you.
Nice, brother. Beautiful. And Itchy's coming in. Itchy, where are you? I thought I got a sense Itchy's around us. I can feel the Itchy presence.
She's great.
Yeah, so guys, we're at Tropical Nomad, by the way, where we film pretty much every Speak Up Monday. The last 100 episodes have been here, so special thanks to them. And like, what future, right? Now, when I say this, it's from the point of view of contribution, right? So if people are watching this now and saying, okay, so I've heard about the project, I get what it is, how do I find it, right? Where do I find information about it, and how can I support it?
Thanks. So our Instagram is Unit Global, UNIT Global, GLOBAL. You can go to unitconference.com. We have a bunch of conferences and forums there. All are invited. We have a master's program, so this runs every 2 months. It's completely free, teaching people about the token economy. Also, one thing worth mentioning, we're doing a really cool project fixing the shortcut. So there's this road in Bali between Canggu and Brawa. It's the first public infrastructure project in the world done with tokens. And the really cool thing is, this is going to serve as a textbook study of how other public infrastructure in the world can be funded with the use of tokens. So if you want to build a playground, for the community, you want to build a library, for the next generation of entrepreneurs, how are you going to get this money? You don't have to go to a philanthropist who's going to buy the whole thing. You can create a token for it, people finance it, and then that gives you the money to make it happen. And then when people benefit from this, in this case, road or library or playground in the future, they're going to buy it from the people who originally funded it. So that's an example of a project where the treasury might never grow. There's no toll charge, there's no library fee, there's no cost of using a playground, but it has value. So when people buy the token, they know that it might not go up in price because the treasury won't increase, but they're okay buying it because they believe that thing has value. Yeah.
Great. And now I'm going to entertain a question, if you have one. Yeah.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Michael. Yeah, I think it's really inspiring. It's very futuristic, and I think it's really going to happen. I'm also a strong believer in that, and I think it's really, really amazing to hear, all your vision. Thank you. What is your immediate projects that you might be doing in Bali? Since you're based out of Bali, and many of your teams are here, and what would you like to do first for here?
Great question. So I suppose we imagine a future where every single business in Bali has a token and every single person has a token. So that is the end goal, where everyone is motivated and incentivized to support one another because it benefits the whole, right? So how do we get there? We need a number of pilot projects, to make those successful. Things like the shortcut. We're working with 5 restaurants now to tokenize. We're working with a number of individuals, who are tokenizing themselves as a person. And I think once we have these case studies, it's just going to become such a no-brainer. It's going to be like, imagine, you painted a picture where everyone's going to become a photographer, through Instagram. It will be like, okay, Robert, we know you like photography, but we don't see us posting pictures of food or posting pictures of us at the gym. That's what a photographer does. But now it's a norm. So it's hard to see a future where, wow, there's gonna be a token for everything. But all we need is to reach the tipping point. The tipping point is 5% of the population, 7% of the population to use it, and everyone goes like, wow, 7% use it, it's gonna work. The issue is if the 7% use it and it's unsustainable. So like NFTs, a lot of people make NFTs. A lot of people are doing DeFi projects or ICOs, and the problem is it doesn't have a treasury, so it's not sustainable. So the 7% use it, the other 20% try to use it, it doesn't work for them, it falls back down again. But if we can get the 7% that use the token economy and see it works so much better, they're like, I'm never going back. It's like people who launch an e-commerce business and they realize, wow, I'm going to sell to the whole world rather than my retail store. They're going to be like, I'm never going to only open 8 hours a day. I'm going to stick to e-commerce. So going into the token economy, once people see the benefits of it, they're going to be like, why have I always thought that owning 100% of my project is the norm? Like, I'm never going to not have my customer and employees have a piece of it, and I'm not going to force myself to not be able to sell portions of it to be exchanged. So it's really not as far away as people think. And we believe that we are really at the cusp of, leading this movement forward. Yeah. Thanks so much, Ichi. I really appreciate the question.
Amazing. Yeah, I think that's there are a lot of things happening in the local project you mentioned about shortcut. Fix the shortcut project, and I think it's a very, very great example of a community project. So yeah, we're looking forward to see more of that, and the more exciting, interesting project that are really going to be also benefiting the community, the local people, local economy, and also the Southeast Asian regions that the Bali is have a very close reach out to.
Absolutely, hundreds of millions of people within a close radius of Bali and Indonesia, and a lot of these people, the banks don't care about them. The venture capitalists, the investors, they don't care about these people. So tokens really provide an opportunity for them to thrive. And then also worth mentioning, we're working to build 2 innovation villages here. So this is super exciting. Won't mention too much detail now.
Mention.
but these
Mention location.
absolutely. So I guess 2 of these projects are pilots of what we think the entire society will look like. People think of fashion, they think of Paris, they think of Milan, they think of apps and websites, they think of Silicon Valley. With tokens, there isn't really a hub. So we believe that Bali can be this hub. And within Bali, we're building a bunch of these sandbox projects. And what governments really want, what entrepreneurs really want, is to increase the chance of them being successful and reduce the chance of failure. And we think that tokens really allow for that.
How would you tokenize a country?
Great point.
Where would you start?
Great point. So a lot of countries are actually tokenized. You can, if you think of dollars, euros, pounds, rupiah as effectively shares, and you own a piece of a country, where when you pay your taxes, you're effectively giving some of your shares back, right? And when you buy products, you're giving some of your shares to people for other products, right? But the unfortunate thing is you're constantly being diluted. So the government is, printing money, or banks are lending money, increasing the number of tokens, and you don't know how many shares there are in rupiah, right? You can't check on your phone and go, okay, this is the amount that exists, and this is what I have.
This is the limit.
You know what I mean? So if effectively there's 192 countries, there's about 95 fiat currencies. Of these 95 fiat currencies, there's about 40 of them which are like proper, or not proper, but like serious ones, like the Swiss franc, the euro, the pound, the US dollar, the Japanese yen, the Korean won. Outside of these 50, there's like none of them are really like, you got the Zimbabwe money, you've got the Venezuelan peso, like these are huge mess ups. Now in Lebanon, huge mess up, but that's going to happen in many more places. So it won't be long before $100 bill might not get you a can of juice or a plate of food, because what's going to happen is people are going to look at shares of the US economy or the euro or the rupee and go, wow, why am I holding these shares of this thing where it can be frozen any time? I'm having to give pieces of it back to this big company of hundreds of millions of people. And we're just going to look back at this point and go, say, I can't believe we lived in this. We're essentially enslaved, like in the sense that if you launch a company, you're essentially a subsidiary of the government, right? It just doesn't make sense. And fair enough, it's better than maybe living in tribes, because you've got business and innovation and people working together, and it's kind of stabler than communism. But it could be so much better. Like we envision a society where you've got one perspective where you've got the earth shares or the earth dollars, and then you go to the other side, you've got things like US dollar, you've got the euro, you've got the Chinese yuan, you've got the Indonesian rupiah. These are things with a few 100 million people. It's a big geographic region, right? You move to the other side, you've got things like Japan, you've got things like the United Kingdom, you've got things like South Africa, the Rand. And so these are countries. And you move to the other side, you've got city nations like Singapore, you've got Monaco, you've got Hong Kong, island states. And we'll talk a bit further. Let's push it more, where you've got, neighborhoods. And let's push it more to the other side. Now you've got, businesses. And when businesses, you've got, sub-businesses. Like let's say this amazing, working space, office space, co-working space. This is like its own country. And inside this country, you've got many different projects. And inside many of these projects, you've got people. So that really the end game is people. So there'll be at least 7 billion tokens, where every person has a token, and every person might have 2 tokens because they have a business, they've got community. Yeah, it's so interesting.
Yeah,
right? It's
yeah.
so exciting.
Yeah.
And it's not that far away.
No.
Because the difficulty with the internet was the cables. Because internet speeds were too slow. So if you tried to watch a video, take you 2.5 minutes to watch a 20-second video, right? So they laid all the cables.
I remember those times.
Right? They laid all the cables, internet speed was fast enough. And then the issue with the mobile phone, with mobile, is not everyone could afford a phone.
Yeah.
You had to line up for the store, you had to pay that amount of money, you had to convince someone that, they actually could use this touchpad, and phones need to be good. Then the difficulty with blockchain, the underlying tech is almost there. I won't say it's ready now. It can't handle the scale, but it's going to be there in the next 2.5 years. Things like Polkadot is really helping the scalability piece. But once the scalability piece is there, everyone has the hardware already. It's just education. And the motivator of the internet was information. The motivator of the mobile was communication. Here, the motivator is money, which is arguably bigger than these first two, right? So hopefully, I'm confident that, it's really much sooner and less utopian than people think.
Validation, right? Validation, right. So we said there's thousands of people in your community. You've got all these things going on. Now, someone looking in and saying, okay, Michael, I hear you. Sounds great. I love the future. Not so utopian.
Yeah.
All right. I get the user case. I get the utility.
Sure. The
right?
value.
And I get tokenized the world. We're already tokenized, but with things that we're not really a part of.
Yeah.
Right. It's not a fractionalized system, not in our favor.
Sure.
Excess capacity.
Yeah.
Keep on going. Keep on printing. Okay. Got it. So now, how can I validate that what you're saying is true? What would you say?
Yeah, create a token. Don't put a big risk there. Think of it as, you might have a traditional company, create a token, and this is like a layer on top. It's kind of like, someone says you should post on social media. You don't say, okay, I'm going to, stop all my marketing efforts. I'm just going to focus on social media. Just create an account, try it out. If it works, spend more time on it. If it doesn't work, it might be too early, give it some time in the future. But just dip your toes into it. Create a token, doesn't cost anything, and, send it to a few friends. Sell, tens of dollars or a few $100s to a few friends. And then now they're going to be like, wow, does that mean I have a piece of your vested stake in success? Great. I'm going to help you become more successful. And then when you become more successful, they see the benefit. So we just need case studies. Like, I think we just need, hundreds or thousands of case studies where people can look back and go, wow, if she's done it, I'm going to do it too.
Yeah, love that. So, Brother Itchy, any more questions from you? No, you're good. So I don't know how long this was, but it was long.
That's great.
It was long, and it was great.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Mate, you're not done yet. But we are. No. So what we do, how we end the show, right, is that I'll do a minute of something.
Sure.
Once I stop talking. And then maybe just think of something that you'd like to leave people with.
Yeah.
Right? And it can be as long or as short as you want. It can be reiterating what you've said already. Definitely give yourself a plug. Like, how can people get to you again? Because sometimes people don't get it the first time around. And yeah, whatever, maybe something that drops in, like, I needed to say that, but I haven't spoken about that yet, and I'd love to bring it up. Okay, so it's unlimited time. That there's no limit in about a minute.
Yeah, no,
right?
I appreciate it.
no limit in about a minute.
Most definitely.
Yeah,
so I think,
not yet.
Right, hasn't started yet.
You've got a minute to think.
All right,
You don't
cool.
even need it. So you've been watching Speak Up Monday, which is not Speak Up Monday because it's not Monday. So this is Speak Up live stream, okay, that we do randomly, but randomly usually on a Wednesday. And Speak Up Monday, as you know, it's all filmed here at Tropical Nomad, which is here in Canggu, right? And so Monday, 6:30 every Monday. Next Monday I have Benjamin, who is an incredible guy. He sees the world like you, very differently to most people, and very insightful, right? So that's Monday. Just check Speak Up, one word, Speak Up Monday group on Facebook is how you can find us. Speak Up Monday, all one word, on Instagram also. They're the two. And then our YouTube library, we've got, I think we shot about 100 episodes here at Tropical Nomad. So go onto the YouTube, just search Speak Up Monday on YouTube. It'll come up as Robert Ian Bonnick - Speak Up Monday, but you'll find it. That's all that matters. And then go to the Speak Up Monday playlist, right? And you'll find all the episodes with all the background information. That one's a really great resource. And then don't forget, on Tuesday, we also have the Clubhouse version, which is mainly for the US. It's 7 a.m. in the morning, pretty early for some of us. 7 a.m., though, you're probably going to bed at 7 a.m. 7 a.m., and we have mainly US guests, and that's more of a collective Q&A that's really interesting as well. So they're the three different streams that we have every week. And on Wednesday, if we don't have a live stream, we have a replay. And again, as you know, my name is Robert Ian Bonnick. I'm your guide, founder of Speak Up Monday as well. And I'm the tourism architect, so I help tourism boards and also inbound operators, large ones, right? Make sure we have more inbound tourism to Bali. And Destination Indonesia, of which this is part of, is showing you some of the incredible people, incredible projects, incredible ideas. And for you who don't really, maybe haven't been to Bali in a while, traditional tourism is kind of gone. I think we can all agree on that, not only here but around the world. And what is happening in Bali is amazing. I mean, some people call it like Silicon Valley. They call it like Bali Valley, right? I'm sure there's another term. Like the Silicon Valley of Southeast Asia is now Bali. So incubators, accelerators, projects like Michael's and so many more. Incredible people, incredible talent, and foreign investment, right? So foreigners are coming in, but it's that remote worker market, right? It's not necessarily your traditional kind of tourism, because you know what? It's expensive to travel. PCR test, this one, that one. So the idea behind Speak Up Monday also is about how do we showcase some of the very best minds, some of the very best projects, some of the very best initiatives which are happening here in Bali, to give you a really good understanding of what kind of people are here. So that makes it easier for you to make that choice to come here, either short term or longer term. And also, if you're looking for that, I can help you there as well. Just Speak Up Monday group, just join that. There's so much information and resources there. Now, Michael, I just want to say to you again, thank you for agreeing to be on here. Great timing with having Bowen the other week, giving one view and you on, and answering a lot of the questions that people are asking, right? About how can we have a system where we're able to not only measure what we have, but also in a fair and equitable and transparent way, be able to assess that what we have is a good investment and all the rest of that. So I think you've shown us, how you're addressing that particular challenging issue, and I appreciate you for being, transparency keeps coming up.
Thank you.
As transparent with your own personal life, because again, as I said before, people inspire people, right? And for a lot of people, you inspire a lot of people, man. From your background, your journey, what you've done, what you're doing, your approach, the fact that you're still excited 2 hours later, right? This guy's like your energy is going up. It's not going down. It's going up, which I think is a good sign.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So mate, over to you to see us out.
Well, yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate what you're doing. I think, in terms of inspiration, you've provided, so much insight and depth and knowledge to people. If you just think about the number of people watching this and how it's going to play such a big role in their personal development, as well as their entrepreneurial development, as well as, the innovations that come about from it, without your hard work, people wouldn't be able to share the knowledge, insights, and build things that improve people's lives. So I guess, you asked to leave a bit of a nugget or a piece of, comment or word of wisdom at the end. I would maybe allude to the point of community. So, the really cool thing about things like Tropical Nomad or places like Bali is the community. So if you can get involved with a community or group of people that you surround yourself with, then it will allow you to thrive, because, like you said, people inspire people and people help people and support people. And if you can be amongst the community, it really helps you go far and to places. And the other thing is, look at people overestimate what they can do in a year, and they underestimate what they can do in 10 years. So if you kind of think, in 10 years time, what is my dream? What is my goal? How can I contribute, help the world? And what are my basic needs once I've met those? What can I help other people with? And if you think of the 10-year perspective, then it's much easier to get there. If you think on a year's perspective, you'll think, oh my gosh, a month has gone by, or half a year has gone by, I'm not getting there. But if you think on a 10-year perspective, I'm confident that everyone can really achieve their wildest dreams. Thank you.
Right, man. Michael Healy, Unit Ventures, and how do people find you again?
Yep, so it's at Unit Global, UNITGLOBAL, or on unit.network, www.unit.network, or www.unit.foundation, FOUNDATION, or unitconference.com. So please feel free to reach out. Happy to answer any questions or support however I can. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. And share this. Share the love. Bye, guys. Great job. We're still live on this guy, but there are some strong questions in there.
Thanks.
Because but